It's been a forgettable year for so many. Perhaps baseball will bring some sunshine into your life. The season opens tonight. On the microphone for the most unusual of openers is Dan Shulman. He's standing by with Buck Martinez. Dan, take it away.
Jamie, Joe, this season is unprecedented in so many ways, but it begins for the Blue Jays tonight. 60 games. They start down at the Trop. They have found a home in Buffalo. The playoff system has expanded so much to talk about, it almost makes you forget we're going to see the regular season Blue Jay debut tonight of Hyun-Jin Ryu.
Boy, what a great sign this was for the Blue Jays. They had a horrible pitching staff last year, and they went out and signed one of the best free agent pitchers on the market in Hyun-Jin Ryu. Ryu started the All-Star game last year, and he actually led the majors in ERA. He's not going to light up the radar gun, and he's not going to blow you away at the plate. But what he does is he's changing speed so effectively, in and out, up and down. He overpowers you with an 89 to 90 mile an hour fastball. But the key to his success will always be that great changeup. He gets a lot of soft contact, and he'll keep the ball in the ballpark.
And he obviously stayed on his throwing program during the time away from baseball. He is stretched out. Could be 6 innings, 90 to 100 pitches based on what we saw at summer camp last week. Back to you.
Dan, thank you so much. It is Bo Bichette leading things off for the Blue Jays against right-hander Charlie Morton. He goes to the mound for Tampa Bay. One quick break, and then we kick this season off right here on Sportsnet.
Welcome back to opening night for the Toronto Blue Jays. Dan Shulman and Buck Martinez with you here at the Sportsnet studios in Toronto. Hazel May is in another studio here at Sportsnet, and we'll be hearing from Hazel during the game tonight. Charlie Montoya with the Blue Jays, of course, are down in Florida as they open up this unprecedented baseball season, Buck, against the Tampa Bay Rays, a season none of us really knew if it would ever even get off the ground.
Now, this is a great night for baseball, Dan, and there were so many concerns about whether or not this would happen, but Charlie Montoya said his team is upbeat, despite the fact they weren't really sure where they're going to play their home games until today. Now they know their home games will be staged in Buffalo. But Charlie Montoya has been a great leader through all of this. He has been calm. He has communicated everything he knew about the situation to his coaches, to his players. He has this team primed and ready to go and start this 2020 season.
Yeah, if you need an upbeat guy, Charlie is your guy. And here's the lineup on opening night. There's one absence. Lourdes Gurriel Jr. is getting there. Could be in the lineup tomorrow night, still feeling a little discomfort in his oblique. Bo Bichette, of course, is in there and leading off as always. And what a sensational 46-game run it was for Bichette as a rookie. His buddies Kevin Avigio, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. hitting right behind him. Travis Shaw in the leadoff spot. And then Grichuk, Tellez, Teoscar Hernandez, Derek Fisher is in there for Gurriel tonight, and Danny Jansen is catching and batting ninth. And it's not an easy assignment for the Blue Jays, Buck, here on opening night.
No, not at all. Charlie Morton, and look at those numbers from a year ago. 33 starts, a 305 earned run average, and the opponents hit just 215 against him. He had 240 strikeouts. He's a power pitcher that can drop that curveball on you any time, and that's the toughest combination for a hitter. Four-seam fastball up in his zone, a terrific curveball. He'll throw at 3 different speeds and throw it any time.
Let's set the defense for the Rays here. It's brought to you by TD, proud fan and official bank of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Well, there are 2 spots in this defensive alignment for Kevin Cash that remain the same just about every day. That's the shortstop, Willie Adames, and the center fielder, Kevin Kiermaier. They're both terrific defenders, but everybody else will move around all season long. Yoshitsugu at third base is playing third base basically for the first time since 2013 in Japan.
And we are underway at the Trop with Bichette in there, fouling off a first pitch fastball from Charlie Morton. And you got to imagine, I mean, all the players have had intra-squad games. Some teams, like the Blue Jays, have had those 2 exhibition games they played at Fenway Park on Tuesday and Wednesday. But Buck, now it counts. And how easy do you think it'll be to get that adrenaline to a regular season level playing in a ballpark with no fans?
I think it's going to be very easy, Dan, and especially with this young team. They're all enthusiastic. They've got a lot of confidence, and they want to get this season going.
There's that wicked curveball from Morton, although usually he'll throw it more down and away to the righty. That backed up on him. But Charlie Morton has unbelievable movement on his pitches, both his two-seam fastball and his curveball.
Well, the one thing he does very well is he fills up the strike zone with fastballs and curveballs, and he changed his delivery when he was pitching with the Pittsburgh Pirates. He really followed what the late Roy Halladay did with his delivery, and he's very quick and very short to the plate.
That was interesting. You could see, and obviously there's nobody in the ballpark, but the scoreboard operator down at the Trop is asking whomever for noise. Of course, somebody else is controlling the noise because for those who don't know, at every ballpark, MLB has sent like a soundboard to every ballpark where they can mix in some fan sound and some natural noise at different levels, as that one will drop untouched down the line. We'll probably wind up going over some stuff tonight that a lot of you know, but for a lot of people, they might be turning on a baseball game for the first time tonight and wondering how in the heck is this season going to work. And one of the things I think people can already hear is there is noise in the ballpark that's being pumped in, even though there are no fans in the ballpark.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing too. And the players, they'll tell you most of the players on the field are oblivious to the crowd noise, but when you're playing in a packed ballpark, everybody senses and feels that excitement. Different story this year.
Bichette in an early battle with Charlie Morton. And a ground ball to first. It'll be Yandy Diaz waving off Morton for the first out.
Bo Bichette, he has a pretty good two-strike approach. He hit that one sharply, but nobody uses analytics better than the Tampa Bay Rays as far as setting up their defense, and that's why they mix and match their defensive alignment so often.
Hitting in the 2 spot is Kevin Biggio. And like Bichette, like Guerrero, each of them in their first full season in the big leagues. Each of them, of course, broke in last year. And Cavan wound up finishing the year reaching base in his last 29 straight games. And as any fan of the Blue Jays knows, Kevin Biggio knows the strike zone. He will take a walk. And even though he might not hit for much of an average, he'll always have a good on-base percentage. And you can see the Rays with a 4-man outfield here against Kevin Biggio. The Rays will do this, Buck, more than any other team in baseball.
Yeah, and it started way back when Joe Madden was the skipper of the Rays, and they will implement all the information and put it to their use to set up their defense. The one thing you can't do as a hitter is change your approach, even though Kevin has bunted in the past. Now look at this. With 2 strikes, they're going to move the third baseman all the way over to the first base side of second. That is so inviting, just to take a shot even with 2 strikes. I think we're going to see so many more hitters make the adjustment and try to go against it, especially in a shortened season of 60 games, because games have such an importance. Each game is valued at about 2.7 games out of a regular season.
Yeah, 60 games instead of 162. So you read articles where people say, hey, a 3-game winning streak is like an 8-game winning streak. And, you know, 15 or 20 games into the season, some teams will start to have an idea, hey, we got a chance this year, or maybe we don't. Although the change of the playoff format certainly made things very interesting. Swing and a miss. Good fastball up and away, and Morton strikes out Biggio.
93 upstairs, and that's the difference we're talking about. He makes you change your eye level so often. 4-seam fastball up in the zone after getting curveball after curveball down in the zone. Biggio sees that ball upstairs, and he's a little bit late on this fastball.
So Bichette and Biggio both retired by Charlie Morton, who finished third in the American League in the Cy Young Award balloting last year. And now the first regular season at bat for Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who looks at that sweeping curveball in for a strike. Vladdy, of course, now a first baseman, moved across the diamond a couple of weeks ago when the Blue Jays got to Toronto for summer camp. And by all accounts is content with the decision, is working hard at first base. And ultimately, Buck, it feels like they maybe want to take a little bit off his plate and hope that frees up his bat a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. And certainly there are a lot of things going on over at first base that you might not really think about. But there's a lot of little tricks about playing first. There's another elevated fastball that Guerrero was late on.
Vladdy is a rookie last year, hit .272, 15 home runs, had a .772 OPS. As he and Bo Bichette, Cavan Biggio all got comfortable at the major league level, and here they are hitting up at the top of the order, doing a good job staying alive with a couple of strikes on him.
Vladdy had a long home run in the exhibition game at Fenway Park, and that's what the Blue Jays want to see more of this season. More balls in the air. He had an awful lot of balls on the ground last year. He needs to elevate a few more of those hard hit balls.
Elevates this one to right field, but it's foul down the line and out of play.
Dan, you know, one thing that Morton does that really makes it hard on a hitter is he works quickly and throws a lot of strikes. Everything is in the strike zone. You always feel like you got to be ready.
You can see extra players. You'll see this all around baseball. There are only so many players allowed in the dugout because of social distancing. So extra players, and it's a 30-man roster for every team, sitting down the line, sitting in the seats. The 0-2 lifted in the air to right center field, playable for Kevin Kiermaier, and it's a 1-2-3 inning for Charlie Morton as Hyun-Jin Ryu gets ready to make his Blue Jay debut. Tuning, a lot of specialists, a lot of righties in the lineup because they hit lefties well, and they will see a lefty tonight for the Toronto Blue Jays with Hyun-Jin Ryu on the mound.
Outstanding numbers for Ryu a year ago. He finished second in the National League Cy Young Award voting behind Jacob deGrom of the Mets. He actually started the All-Star game last year after he got off to a great start. .232 earned run average. That was the best in the majors. He doesn't give up many long balls, keeps the ball in the ballpark, and last year, all season long, he walked just 24 batters.
This was an exciting day back in the winter when the Blue Jays, after they had tried to sign some other pitchers, Zach Wheeler and Jake Odorizzi, and those guys signed elsewhere. And I don't know how many people thought that this was a realistic possibility for the Blue Jays. And then lo and behold, they signed Ryu to a 4-year, $80 million deal. And his first pitch is a fastball outside of the knees for ball one to Yandy Diaz, who, as you can see, and we saw this in the top half of the inning as well, is wearing a mask, although he's only got it over his mouth. He doesn't have it over his nose as well, but he is one of the few players that we've seen who is wearing a mask during the game.
Yeah, a few players, and Clint Frazier, the Yankees, wore it all throughout summer camp. They choose to wear it during the regular season game. Ryu's 33 years old, and we mentioned he pitched very well for the Dodgers, and this is his second straight opening day assignment.
How much of an adjustment do you think it is? I mean, he did, as you mentioned, led the majors in ERA last year. You know, Dodger Stadium has always been known as a great pitcher's park.
12-mile-an-hour difference.
And he's also moving from the National League to the American League East. So 2 adjustments, really.
Yeah, and it is a different ballpark. Certainly Dodger Stadium was a terrific ballpark for him, and he pitched very well there last year, going 10-1 at Dodger Stadium. But you know what? He's a veteran. He's been around. He's had a long career in Korea. He's 7 years with the Dodgers. He understands how to pitch. Right now, he and Danny Jansen having a bit of a problem getting on the same page, but he will mix it up. He's very unpredictable.
2 balls and a strike on Diaz, leading off the bottom of the first. Just underway at Tropicana Field as now Jansen and Ryu get together. Long hesitation by Ryu, and he bounces one in to fall behind. His reputation is a great teammate. Nothing phases him. Nothing rocks his boat. Always under control, calm, confident. And he's one of these guys, you hear the cliche, he looks like he's in a rocking chair out there. He's one of those guys. Never looks like he's throwing with max effort, but he gets the job done.
Yeah, he sure does. And he reminds me a lot of David Wells, the way he throws. He's very athletic. He's got a great delivery, and he'll fill up the strike zone. Diaz thought that was ball 4. Two-seam fastball, a little late run on it, catches the top of the zone, and the veteran Joe West behind the plate calls it a strike.
And he got him. Ryu battles back to strike out Diaz.
Take a look at the defense behind Ryu, and when you think of the defense, big change, of course, this year. Vladdy Guerrero Jr. making his first start in the big leagues over at first base. They made the switch during summer camp, and he's worked hard. He's very comfortable over there. He's engaged, and he's really bought into the idea of playing first. He didn't play very well defensively in the field last year, and that may have impacted his mindset as a hitter.
Here's the number 2 hitter for the Rays, their right fielder, Hunter Renfroe. Renfroe's got big-time power. They picked him up in an off-season deal from San Diego. Tommy Pham went the other way, a real mainstay with the Rays last year. Renfroe 33 home runs a year ago, out in front of that changeup. Bichette up on the bullpen area where the plates are down the line. One of the few ballparks where the bullpens are still in play, but Bo looking pretty comfortable making that catch.
Boy, he really took charge of this pop-up. He went down into that bullpen area, and he got there very quickly, so he was able to call off Travis Shaw right away and made a play very easily. Remember, playing at Tropicana Field, that roof is an issue. You get up there, and that ball can get lost in all of the structure high above the field.
So now Yoshi Tsutsugo, who has been mostly a left fielder during his time in Japan, but is at third base tonight for the Rays, a position he played more several years ago. And this is a guy that there was talk back in the winter the Blue Jays were in on, that they were interested in him. A couple of weeks after Tsutsugo signed with the Rays, the Blue Jays signed Travis Shaw. Tsutsugo left field, can play some third, can play some first. And a lot of power, averaging about 35 home runs a year the last 4 years in Japan. Rolls one to second. Biggio on to Guerrero, and it's a 3-up, 3-down inning. Just 10 pitches needed for Hyun-Jin Ryu in the bottom of the first. Draw for the season's first week. Tonight, one Blue Jays fan in Ontario will win the draw's first early bird prize, a 2020 Honda Civic. Get your tickets online now for your chance to win a new car and the grand prize rolling jackpot, which currently stands at an eye-popping $177,000. Don't miss out. Go to BlueJays.com/5050 for tickets. Dan Shulman and Buck Martinez with you here with the Sportsnet studios in Toronto. The Blue Jays down in Florida taking on the Rays. Game 1 of 60 here in this 2020 regular season. And very, very glad to be here doing baseball games. Very glad that people are along with us watching at home, and hoping that this makes the world feel maybe a little bit more normal. Where it's certainly not all the way there, Buck, but it feels a little bit more normal with some sports on TV tonight.
Boy, it sure does, and it's been an unusual summer for sure with all the things that have gone on in those sports. But I know the players are happy to be back playing. They've been out a long time, and none of these guys, and Charlie Morton's a great example of it, of guys that have done this their whole life, and they missed out the first 3 months of the season.
Swing and a miss, and Morton will strike out Travis Shaw in his first regular season at bat as a Blue Jay. 4 up and 4 down thus far for Morton.
Another elevated fastball that Morton sets up very well, and he will exploit all the quadrants of the strike zone with fastballs and curveballs.
Kevin Cash in his 6th year as manager of the Rays, as Randall Grichuk steps in, and hard to believe that makes Cash the 3rd longest tenured manager in the major leagues. Bob Melvin is in his 10th year with Oakland. Terry Francona is in his 8th year with Cleveland, and then Kevin Cash.
And Cash worked under Terry Francona in Cleveland, and Francona helped Cash an awful lot in his preparation for the interviews during the managerial hiring process.
Randall Grichuk, the batter. Randall will be the primary center fielder this year. Teoscar Hernandez is in right field. That's going to be his spot. Lourdes Gurriel, when healthy, which could be tomorrow, will be in left field. That's the way the outfield is scheduled to look on most nights. And you could hear the crowd noise. I'm sure people at home could hear it. We hear it in our headsets. I guess because Morton got to a 2-strike count, they turn up the volume or adjust the noise a little bit. And it's something, again, that this has been mandated by MLB. You'll hear this in every ballpark this year.
Yeah, it's just part of the process, playing games without fans.
To center field, but playable. Kiermaier, the 3-time Gold Glover, makes the catch. 2 down.
You can see him pointing to the roof. It's still twilight in St. Petersburg, and that roof is translucent. And when you look up there, sometimes that baseball gets lost in the roof.
So 2 down for Rowdy Tellez, who is DHing tonight. And I think, Buck, maybe as much as anybody on the team, the 2 weeks that the Blue Jays spent in Toronto, really did some good for Rowdy Tellez. He swung the bat tremendously well, hit the ball to the opposite field hard a lot, and kind of solidified himself a spot in the lineup. Goes after the first pitch. Fly ball to left. Manuel Margot makes the grab, and it's another 3-up, 3-down inning for Morton Ryu. Back to the mound. Great to see you. Hazel and Arash will both be along for the season this year. And again, they're also here with the Sportsnet studio. And how about a tip of the cap to the jobs that Hazel and Arash have to do, being a reporter who's not on site to go get the stories. You got to work extra hard doing it from a distance, but doing great work as always. Ryu 3 up and 3 down against the Rays in the bottom of the first. And here is Jose Martinez, a newcomer to Tampa Bay. They got him at a deal with St. Louis. He is not much with the glove, but he can mash left-handers. I mean, he can play and hit, but he really hits lefties. And Jose Martinez, one of a number of Rays who we know tested positive for COVID-19. Some teams are publicizing the players who have tested positive. Some teams aren't. You're not allowed to publicize it without the consent of the player. But in some cases, the Rays have publicized it, and Martinez missed some time, was away from the team after he tested positive, just rejoined them a few days ago, and wasn't a sure thing to be on the opening day roster till just a couple of days ago.
Well, he has had some devastating injuries throughout his career, and I think that probably had a lot to do with how motivated he was to get back on the active roster. One point early in his career, he had a career-threatening knee injury and actually went through meniscus transplant to get a meniscus back into his knee. But he has been through some tough injuries.
Boy, isn't it fun to watch a guy like Ryu change pitches, change locations, change speeds on every single pitch.
A little bit like Mark Burley, wouldn't you say? Yeah. And I think both Morton and Ryu do a very good job of disrupting the timing of the hitter, and Morton does it certainly in a much more dramatic fashion with velocity. But Ryu has such a wide gap in velocity with his various pitches that he's also effective.
Right at Bichette. And on the money, 1 down. Well, Ryu, a great example of how you can be very effective without being overpowering. Go back since the 2013 season. He's 5th in the big leagues in ERA. Look at Clayton Kershaw at 219, kind of lapping the field. That's pretty good rotation right there. Ryu, you think he'd be okay being the 5-man in there?
You know what? I'd go back to managing if I had that 5-man rotation. How about that? And Clayton Kershaw, of course, this year again on the injured list to start the season. That's the reason Ryu was the opening day starter for the Dodgers a year ago.
And Dustin May, a young pitcher with a great arm, filled in as the opening day starter for the Dodgers last night. Kike Hernandez had a big game. Dodgers beat the Giants. Yankees beat the Nationals. Those were the 2 games last night. Everybody except the Yankees and the Nationals is in action tonight. There will not be many off days. Good change up there. It's 60 games in 66 days. And of course, what we learned today, big news, I think really the biggest story that Blue Jay fans had been talking about is that they will play their home games at Salem Field in Buffalo. They'll either start July 31st against the Phillies, or if they can't get the ballpark ready by then, up to Major League standards, it'll be August 11th. And just so much uncertainty for the players. Would it be Toronto? Would it be Pittsburgh? Would it be Baltimore? Would it be Buffalo? And finally today, the decision came down that Buffalo is the choice.
Yeah, and the players did such a great job of remaining upbeat and staying positive through it all. And again, it goes back to their leader, Charlie Montoyo, saying, hey, we'll worry about baseball. Let the front office worry about where we're going to play the games.
And line to short. Bichette there to make the grab. 2 down. Well, here's what we know about Salem Field from what the Blue Jays have said. It is a good minor league facility. Like just about every minor league ballpark, the lighting is not up to major league standards. But Mark Shapiro, the president of the Blue Jays, said today in a conference call with the media, the bulbs that are needed to upgrade it, they're in Buffalo. They're sitting there. They've been ordered. They're there. They were just waiting to know for sure if it was going to be Buffalo before they installed them. That'll get done. Some of the larger issues are things like clubhouse, weight room, training room, because major league players are used to major league facilities. And in addition to that, if everything is smaller at a minor league ballpark, how do you socially distance during a pandemic? So some accommodations, whether it's construction or just being very creative in other areas of the ballpark, some of that will have to be done.
Yeah, that has a lot more to do with it than the creature comforts for the players.
Yes.
It's all social distancing because they're small clubhouses, because minor league teams don't have as many personnel.
Kevin Biggio was on the Fan 590 radio station in Toronto today on Baseball Central with Blair and Barker, and he said the infield there is one of the best he's ever played on. And he also said Biggio said he thinks the Blue Jays could turn this into an advantage because other teams will be kind of aggravated that they're not going to a major league ballpark, whereas for the Blue Jays, they'll have gotten used to it. So they'll try to turn it into an advantage if they can. Bichette in on all 3 plays. Another 3-up, 3-down inning for Ryu. 12 teams in Edmonton, 12 teams in Toronto, 24 teams beginning the journey towards the Stanley Cup. NBA starting up, NHL starting up, baseball with about a week's head start. Blue Jays underway, no score, top 3. Dan Shulman to Buck Martinez, Hazel May, and Teoscar Hernandez getting his first at bat of the regular season. You can see the numbers from a year ago, but the numbers don't really tell the story. It was a tale of 2 seasons for Teoscar that actually saw him spend some time in the minors. Struggled, sent down, came back, and was really good the last couple of months with an OPS over 960 in his last 59 games. And this is a giant if, but if he could ever put together the best of himself for an entire season, however long an entire season is, the Blue Jays would have themselves quite a force.
Well, they sure would. And I think it's just a matter of focus and confidence. He had 18 home runs in the second half of the season, and he's actually homered in his last 3 big league games right here at Tropicana Field. Boy, that's a pretty good pitch that Morton dropped in there. Just 75 miles an hour, and Joe West, he didn't like it. Felt like it broke around the plate. He had a good look at it, that's for sure.
3-1 fastball that he gets by Hernandez, 3-2.
We mentioned Morton was one of the harder throwing pitchers in the American League last year, but you can see his velocity's 91-92, which makes a lot of sense given the fact they haven't had an extended spring.
Got it on the hands of Hernandez, and another play for Kiermaier, 1 down. Buck talked about the fastball velocity. When he's on, he can really bring it.
Yeah, he sure can. You Garrett Cole, Reynaldo Lopez, Justin Verlander, and Charlie Morton. 94.4 miles an hour average fastball. We've seen his fastball top out about 93 here tonight, but he's had the ability to get up 96, 98 miles an hour when he's right. But obviously, spring training was extended because of the COVID shutdown, but he didn't have the work or the innings under his belt to build up that arm strength.
Derek Fisher lashes a ball into right field on the first pitch that he sees, and good hustle there by Renfroe to hold him to a long single. That's first base runner of the night for either team. Fisher only in the lineup because Lourdes Gurriel isn't. Capitalizes with a base hit.
Well, you know, it's a pretty good approach against Charlie Morton. Go up there and look for a fastball, and if you get it, go ahead and take a whack at it, because he's done such a good job changing speeds on his breaking ball. Derek Fisher, who had a great exhibition game in Boston, a couple of home runs at Fenway. jumps on that fastball and gets the first hit of the night.
So 1 out, base hit for Fisher here in the top of the 3rd. Here's Danny Jansen getting the start behind the plate, hitting 9th. And the playing time will be split between Jansen and Reese McGuire. One a right-handed batter, one a left-handed batter. And the thinking is that Jansen will probably play more. Whether it's 60-40 remains to be seen. Ultimately, the production of each of them will determine how much they play. But you talk about a guy who was hot down in Dunedin before the shutdown. Danny Jansen was that guy.
Yeah, he sure was. He had developed a routine in the off season prior to the original spring training. It carried it right into spring training. Hit 4 home runs in the spring. But you could see his confidence was sky high, and he was able to maintain that confidence during summer camp. Danny has always been thought of a defense first catcher, but he's shown some power in the past, and he understands that as a catcher you don't necessarily need to hit 300, just do some damage. But he's still a catch first guy as far as his pitching, and pitchers love to throw to him.
I got to believe his job is going to feel a little bit easier this year, not because it's a shorter season, although that plays into it, but he caught like 32 different guys last year. The Blue Jay pitching staff was just constantly churning guys up and down from the minors. And who knows what this season will bring, but you got to believe, given the players they brought in, there will be a little more stability on the staff as Jansen pops up 2 down.
Well, you make a great point, Dan, because the experience level of the rotation for Jansen is dramatically different this year, and he doesn't have to put in double duty worrying about his pitcher and the opponent's lineup. Now he just worries about the opponent's lineup, and the pitchers generally take care of their own pregame planning.
2 down, back to the top of the order for Bo Bichette, who made Morton work in the first inning, extended the at bat by a few pitches, but wound up grounding out to first. Boy, watching Bo in summer camp at Rogers Center over the last couple of weeks, getting a chance to go down there on a number of days, I mean, everything was a rocket. And he would pull inside pitches. If he got to 2 strikes, he would tone down the leg kick, just do a little toe tap, hit the ball to right center, down the right field line. And of course, his dad, Dante, is with the Blue Jays. Dante had a terrific major league career, and he's doing a lot of work with Blue Jay hitters right now.
Boy, he sure is. He's working on the mental aspect of hitting as far as how hitters think about themselves when they get in the box. Of course, he's worked with his son his entire life, but Dante has been a real plus to this ball club, and he's there on the bench tonight. A little bit concerned, I think, about crowding his son. 22-year-old big leaguer, and Dante says, you know what, I want Bo to have his own freedom here and not be worried about his dad sitting in the dugout every night. But boy, he's been a real plus to this coaching staff. Not officially a coach, kind of a guest instructor.
Right. And Bichette, a big cut, comes up empty, and that curveball down and away, and that'll retire the side. We go to the bottom of the 3rd. No score.
To store, retain, and then retrieve previous at-bats. Translator Brian Lee told me he wouldn't go so far as to say Ryu has a photographic memory, but second or third time through the order, Ryu can easily read and recall a hitter's previous pitching sequence, which then enables him to mix things up and adjust patterns. Pitching coach Pete Walker said Ryu is an intelligent pitcher with a great memory who can absorb information for later use. Dan.
And hopefully can impart some of that to some of the other pitchers on the staff. I think a lot of young pitchers on the staff would look up to a Hyun-Jin Ryu, or tomorrow night starter, a Matt Shoemaker, who's back healthy with the Blue Jays. You can learn a lot of things from guys like that.
Yeah, and when you hear them talk about baseball, I know there's a language situation, but Ryu's got an interpreter with him all the time, and he's very, very anxious to help his teammates. He's a long-time pro, had a long career in Korea and 7 years with the Dodgers, and he likes to share his knowledge.
Slow curveball misses down and in, ball 1 to the Rays shortstop Willie Adames. 20 home runs a year ago and has always hit the Blue Jays hard. He's a .357 career hitter against Blue Jay pitching. He'll be followed by Kevin Kiermaier, then the catcher Mike Zunino. Ryu has set down the first 6 Rays he has faced tonight.
You can see Danny Jansen went through about 5 different signs, and that's going to be an adjustment for him because Ryu has the ability to throw all of his pitches for strikes. So he's going to have to get comfortable with him during the course of a regular season game.
Would you enjoy catching a guy like this, though?
It'd be a thrill. He can throw down anything, and he can deliver. Wants his cutter on the outside.
And that is hit hard and off the body of Biggio into shallow center. Adames is digging for second and will be in there without a throw. Well, you could see Ryu put that pitch right where Jansen wanted it, right on the outside corner, but Adames put a really good swing on it.
Well, he did, and he's a young guy that really is becoming a pretty potent offensive force. And Biggio, he got handcuffed, got his body turned the right way, kind of angled his body hoping to get that ball on the short hop, but it bounces off his glove into center.
And it has been scored a double.
Too hot to handle.
Yep. And again, this is something new. The official scorer, from my understanding, official scorers are not in ballparks this year. They are doing it from home. They are distancing as well. So, like, again, a tip of the cap for a lot of people working hard behind the scenes, that information got from the official score to the ballpark down in Florida and then up here as quickly as it did. That's a lot of communicating going on. Here's Kevin Kiermaier.
Blue Jays got to be aware of Kiermaier. He can take a drag bunt against this lefty pitcher right here in this situation with nobody out.
Called strike, says Joe West, 1-1.
Kiermaier, terrific defensive player, but boy, oh boy, anytime he hits it on the ground, you better hustle it. Gets through the infield. It's always got a chance to be a double for Kevin Kiermaier. He takes nothing for granted.
Late on the fastball. Is it the 72-mile-an-hour curveball that makes the 90-mile-an-hour fastball look faster than it is?
Yeah, and it's not the curveball solely. It's the changeup, the curveball, his off-speed pitches that he throws for strikes so often. You put that in a hitter's mind, and they're thinking about the secondary pitches, and then that 90-mile-an-hour fastball looks like 95.
Good block.
There's 75, a big curveball. And he traditionally doesn't throw an awful lot of curveballs. Last year for the season, he threw more changeups than fastballs. Changeup, fastball, cutter. Those were his primary pitches a year ago. But he's the one kind of guy, like so many veterans, that he will pitch with whatever feels best on a given night.
You can see how the outfield really shading Kiermaier around to the opposite field. Got him slightly to pull on the infield. That is Charlie Montoyo on the left, and that is Pete Walker alongside, the pitching coach of the Blue Jays, who's awfully excited about some of the new arms they've got in here. Hyun-Jin Ryu, of course, being one of them. But there have been a lot of changes on the pitching staff. Foul ball, including a whole lot of power in the bullpen. Guys like Anthony Bass, Rafael Dolis we'll talk about as the night and the days move along, but you know, you get a healthy Shoemaker back along with Ryu, and the Blue Jays staff looks a lot different. Of course, Nate Pearson is coming. He is not on the roster yet. He's part of the 3-man taxi squad, but figures to be activated very soon, probably next week. And that'll be something all Blue Jay fans will be very excited about.
Who is that, Dan?
He's yeah, you haven't heard much about him. I know.
Pearson, huh?
They've kind of been keeping him under wraps.
Yeah.
And, yeah. Under
it's
the
kind of
radar.
a sleeper.
Yeah. A sinker slider guy, changes speeds. And,
First time I saw him a couple of years ago, I was standing next to Pat Henkin in spring training. I said, "What do you think, Pat? Roger Clemens or Roy Halladay?"
Oh. Wow. You're just
He's
throwing
special,
that out there, huh?
He is special.
Up and in full count. Pearson 6'6", 245. Baby face, doesn't look like he shaves, but throws in the high 90s, can reach triple digits. Slider, curveball, changeup as well. And he and Ryan Borucki are both on the taxi squad. Both figure to be on the active roster very soon. On the taxi squad for different reasons right now. If people don't know what we're talking about, because of COVID and the possibility that you could lose players at any time. Grounded to short. Only play for Bichette is to first, and they just do get him as the runner advances.
Now, good base running by Adames. That ball was hit to the shortstop, but he got a good read on it and knew Bichette's only play was over to first. Kiermaier had a good at bat against Ryu, and you can see his teammates acknowledging moving Adames from second to third after the leadoff double. That's the way the Rays play.
Yep. Santiago Espinal, who has made the team for the Blue Jays, is a utility guy. Lourdes Gurriel Jr. not in the lineup because of some slight discomfort in his side. Hoping, Charlie Montoyo hoping that he will be able to play tomorrow. Gurriel suffering the injury a few days ago in Toronto. Runner at third, one out, and Mike Zunino is the batter. And the infield has come in for the Blue Jays. And they got three on the left side of second base. Zunino's got big power, but a lot of swing and a miss. Hit just a .165 last year and is a .202 career hitter in the big leagues. Most of his time in the big leagues spent with Seattle. Just to finish up the Nate Pearson story and the taxi squad. So teams are allowed to take 3 extra players with them on road trips. And the reason being, if somebody were to test positive, they want to reduce the amount of times that players are flying around a commercial flight. So you can take 3 extra players. One of them has to be a catcher. The other 2 could be whatever you want. And you've got some extra players in case while you're on the road somebody tests positive. Good change up there. And you can make a switch on your roster. So Caleb Joseph, veteran catcher, longtime Baltimore Oriole. He's on the taxi squad along with Ryan Borucki, who will be activated soon, whether it's game 4, game 5, something like that. And Nate Pearson, who, as we mentioned, will likely be a Blue Jay next week.
Yeah, and Borucki threw the ball well throughout the summer camp also, much like Pearson. Not the same power, of course.
Well, he'll throw that changeup to anybody in any count. Guerrero makes the catch. Boy, circled around it a little bit, but found it in time. 2 down.
Those are the little subtleties of moving across the diamond. When those pop-ups go up, they have a different spin on the right side of the diamond than they do on the left side. And you see Vladdy got underneath it, and then the ball kind of moved back toward the fair part of the field. But little subtleties like that, that ball on the other side of the diamond is going to have a different spin on it than it would on the right side of the diamond, but he stayed with it and made the play.
A big second out, holding that runner at third, and back to the top of the order now for Yandy Diaz, who struck out his first time up. Rays trying to scratch across the first run of the ball game tonight against Hyun-Jin Ryu.
Diaz acknowledging, okay, I got a good idea about that changeup. So now Ryu and Jansen have to exploit the inside part of the plate a bit, and that's where they got him on that cutter last time up.
Threw it again. Missed low ball 2. Let's see, Diaz doesn't have the mask on this time. Had it partially on when he hit the first time. Had it fully on in the field. And now has taken it off as he comes to the plate for the second time. The players are allowed to do whatever they want. Although they're obviously supposed to wear it inside in the clubhouse. Whenever they're off the field, they're supposed to wear it. All coaches have to wear masks at all time. And that's why every time you see a shot of the dugout, managers, coaches, other staff, they are all wearing masks at all times.
Well, Dan, it's a short season, so you can't let things linger for a long time. He went 0 for 1 with a mask, so he said that's enough of the mask.
And there you can see what we're talking about. Everybody's got different mask styles going on right now. Makes it tougher to figure out who some of these guys are sometimes. 3-0. Little changeup over the outside corner.
He has thrown him all changeups in this at bat, and he'll throw it any time. He understands that he can't sit there and pound that strike zone with fastballs, so he is unpredictable. And that's the challenge I mentioned earlier for Danny Jansen. Ryu will basically call his game from the mound.
And he missed with a fastball to walk him. Runners on the corners now with 2 down.
the first walk of the ball game, and I don't know that he wanted anything to do with Yandy Diaz. He pitched around him. He threw him all changeups and then tried to hit the outside corner with a fastball, but I think he was okay with walking him with 2 outs.
Well, here's a guy he's familiar with, and vice versa. Hunter Renfroe coming from the Padres and Ryu coming from the Dodgers, so spent some time together in the National League West. Change up just below the knees for ball 1.
Yeah, Renfroe has hit against him. He's just 3 for 14, so Ryu has a much better idea about pitching to Renfroe than he did pitching to Diaz.
There are so many positions where the Rays will, if not have a strict platoon, it'll be a matchup situation. Kevin Cash, as we know, loves to move people around. It's all about versatility for Tampa Bay. Kiermaier will play center when healthy. Adames will play short. And everybody else, you'll put guys in the best spots to succeed. A lot of their righties have very good numbers against lefties, of course. Lefties have better numbers against righties. And tomorrow night, for example, when Matt Shoemaker's on the mound, there's a chance like 6 of the guys will be different for the Rays.
Yeah, and that's the way Cash utilizes that analytical information. He matches up the pitchers with his hitters, and he'll make the changes accordingly.
And remember, it's a 30-man roster right now. The Blue Jays currently going with 15 pitchers, 15 hitters. The Rays have 16 pitchers, 14 hitters. It goes down to 28 in a couple of weeks, goes down to 26 2 weeks after that, as Jansen once again shows really good form blocking that curveball.
Yeah, that's one thing that he's really worked hard on, is his setup behind the plate and his ability to block those pitches. Another changeup.
Got him.
What a job.
Yep. Great
They
job.
walk Diaz, put him on with 2 outs, and then uses that changeup to get a big strikeout and leave 2 runners on base. Still a scoreless game.
Biggio has is getting on base. Walked 71 times in 100 games last year. A .364 on base percentage, one of the best marks among rookies in the American League. That's why he hits in the 2 spot. Added a little power, added a little speed, some defensive versatility, and he may not get the headlines that Bichette and Guerrero get, but a very important part of the Blue Jays' future.
Well, he sure is, and I think he's played better in the field than a lot of people have expected. He's got a chance to beat here, and he does. What a heads-up play by Cavan Biggio. It was a foot race between he and Charlie Morton, and the throw from the first baseman, Diaz, was a little bit behind Morton. He kind of had to slow down and reach behind him. But you can see the shift is on, and Biggio crosses up the shift by going to the first baseman. And Morton couldn't handle that throw. It was a little bit behind him. But Biggio, he's a heads-up player, man. Every time he sees an opportunity, he tries to take advantage of it. And he was going to beat Morton to the bag anyway. Even if he catches this ball, he's going to be safe.
And again, he saw the 3-man infield, 4-man outfield. Bunted for a base hit on the first pitch. And now Guerrero sends one through the right side for a base hit. Biggio will stop at second, and the first 2 men are aboard for the Blue Jays.
Well, Guerrero jumps on the first pitch, gets it by the second baseman Brasso, and Renfroe in right field has got a cannon for an arm, so there wasn't going to be any attempt to move to third base by Biggio. Stays inside that 2-seam fastball and hits it past the second baseman. They're playing him to pull. And they crossed up that alignment, back-to-back base hits to start the 4th.
That'll bring up Travis Shaw. Struck out his first time up. Shaw coming off a tough year with Milwaukee last year. Hit just .157, wound up in the minors for a bit. The 2 previous years had very good years for the Brewers. 63 home runs. And hit for a much better average. 32 homers one year, 31 the next year. And of course, with Guerrero moving to first, that moves Shaw over to third. They flip-flop. Shaw, a very steady, solid third baseman. Still could fill in at first, could also fill in at second in a pinch. He's done that. There you see his numbers from 2017 and 18. Of course, came up with the Boston Red Sox, so familiar with the American League East.
Good job by Biggio to distract Morton there. He took a couple of steps toward third. Dante Bichette, Bo Bichette. Remember, Shaw's part of this four-man infield. It's all second-generation major leaguers. Travis's father, Jeff, was a great relief pitcher, long time with the Dodgers, but quite unique that an entire infield comprised of second-generation major leaguers.
Well, Jeff spent some time with Montreal as well, with the Expos. 2-2. Wouldn't you love to listen in on the Dante Bo conversations? I mean, you want to talk about hardcore baseball that those two must be talking about.
Yeah, and you know what? Dante has talked about it too with his older son Dante Jr. He got a little bit too involved in mechanics, trying to create a hitter. He let Bo be himself, and Bo certainly not a conventional approach at the plate, but boy, he can hit. And Dante Sr. said, you know what, I just let Bo hit like he wanted to hit. We just talk about mindset, what to look for, what to think about when you're in the batter's box.
Biggio at second, Guerrero at first with nobody out. And just missed with a curveball. Boy, Morton and Zunino wanted that one, but it's ball four and the bases are loaded.
Boy, what a good at bat by Travis Shaw, trying to make an impact with his new team. Lays off that curveball that went around the outside corner. Both these pitchers, Ryu and Morton, very unpredictable. And Morton chooses to go with that breaking ball, and he walks Shaw to load the bases.
So what an opportunity for the Blue Jays here in the fourth inning. The batter is Randal Grichuk. Shaw, Grichuk, and the guys below him all likely hitting one spot higher tonight than they normally will when Gurriel is in the lineup. Gurriel will likely hit third, dropping Guerrero to fourth. And then you'd have Shaw fifth, Grichuk sixth. You'll see a lot of left, right for all kinds of managers around Major League Baseball because of one of the new rules this year. That was coming in anyways, had nothing to do with the COVID situation. The three-batter rule is a rule this year, where a pitcher has to face three batters or finish the inning. If he comes in to get one guy and the inning ends, then it's fine, but otherwise he's got to face three. So for example, your lefty specialist might have to go through a righty or maybe two to get to that lefty batter. It'll change the strategy for a lot of managers.
Well, I tell you what, I know this is the first game of the regular season, but so far tonight the Blue Jay hitters have been very selective. They have laid off some tough pitches, some borderline pitches, and Kevin Cash is not quite used to seeing that. And neither is Charlie Morton. Generally, he'll get hitters to chase those close pitches.
Lined into left field, a base hit. Biggio will come in to score. An RBI single for Randal Grichuk. And the Blue Jays have taken the lead here in the fourth inning.
And it all started with a Biggio drag bunt to get the inning going. Grichuk showing great patience, gets a fastball right down the heart of the plate and stays on it and drives it into left field. First RBI of the season. What a nice swing. Well, he laid off some tough breaking balls and gets the pitch he wants. And this is all part of the new approach. Blue Jays had too much swing and miss in their offensive approach last year. And so far tonight, it looks like a different ball club. I know it's only one game, but it's a good start.
Yep. Biggio in to score. Meeting on the mound, Kyle Snyder, the pitching coach, out with a mask on as he and Zunino and Morton have a meeting on the mound. And I think we'll see early, Buck, a lot of differences between teams. How stretched out are your starting pitchers? Can guys go 60 or 80 or 100? At the front end of the rotation, I think the Blue Jays are in pretty good shape with Ryu and Shoemaker. They both look very stretched out.
Well, and two, they're not max effort guys.
Right.
They can pitch like you mentioned earlier. It looks like they're pitching in a rocking chair, both Shoemaker and Ryu. Another good take by Tellez.
You know, this part of the order, Grichuk, Tellez, Hernandez, people focus on the kids and they talk about the pitching, but boy, this part of the order, all three of these guys with enormous power, but all three of them, as you've talked about, sometimes they chase, they expand their strike zone too much. If Grichuk, Tellez, Hernandez, to any degree, can improve their ability to lay off the bad stuff and wait for the good stuff, they can really put up some.
Boy, they could. And they all have dramatic power. I mean, light tower power. Rowdy weighed back on that one and hit it deep enough into center.
Kiermaier will make the catch. Easy tag and score for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Putting the ball in play, gets another run in, 2-0.
Boy, this has been a good inning against a tough pitcher. Biggio with the bunt base hit. Tellez picks up the RBI with a sac fly. A lot of enthusiasm in that dugout. Still just one out.
Not supposed to be high-fiving real guys, or just high-five imaginary guys as you get down to the end of the dugout. I'll tell you another thing that's changed. We're not going to see Teoscar Hernandez dumping seeds on anybody this year.
No, and that's a good thing.
No sunflower seeds allowed. Hernandez lifts a fly ball to left field. Just didn't get enough of it. Just in on his hands. Warning track fly ball. But Shaw, who had tagged and come to third on the Tellez fly ball, will come in on the sac fly by Hernandez, and another productive out makes it 3-0.
Well, I tell you what, this has been a beautiful inning for the Blue Jays, and Teoscar, who's got a lot of swing and miss in his approach, gets a breaking ball, hits it deep enough into left field to pick up the RBI. How about this inning? What a different inning it is for the Blue Jays. A bunt base hit to start it, and then 2 sac flies. Blue Jays relied so much on the home run last year, and this has been a very good inning for the offense.
So 3 runs in, 2 down. Fisher at the plate, had a base hit his first time up. The Blue Jays playing at a ballpark that traditionally has not been a whole lot of fun for them. They had struggled against the Rays in both ballparks, but even more so down at the Trop. Jays just 6-13 against the Rays last year overall.
36-77 at the Trop since 2008, including 6-13 last year. This has always been a tough stop on the schedule for the Blue Jays.
And these two teams will see a lot of each other. The schedule is different this year. 40 of your 60 games come within your own division, and the other 20 come against the corresponding division in the other league. So the Blue Jays will see the Rays 10 times, Orioles 10 times, Yankees 10 times, Red Sox 10 times. 2/3 of your schedule is within your own division, and again trying to cut down on travel time in airplanes for obvious reasons.
You know, that was an interesting shot of Shaw and Biggio talking in the dugout, obviously talking about Charlie Morton and what they saw during their at-bats. But this is somewhat a product of being quarantined at Rogers Center, and the players were together all the time. The only thing they had to do was talk baseball. They developed stronger bonds. There were a lot of new guys like Shaw that got familiar with the holdover Blue Jays from a year ago. And a lot of good things came out of that.
Strike 3 called inside corner to get Fisher and retire the side, but not before the Blue Jays put 3 on the board and take a 3-0 lead. Optimist about the Blue Jays' chances this season. One of the reasons why is probably the change in the starting rotation, the signing of Hyun-Jin Ryu, the inevitable arrival of Nate Pearson, the health of Matt Shoemaker, another year's development for Trent Thornton, the signing of Tanner Roark and Chase Anderson. And that leaves out guys like Anthony Kay and Ryan Borucki, who could find themselves starting at times. The difference in the depth in the starting rotation for the Blue Jays between last year and this year is very noticeable.
Dramatic. They used 21 starters a year ago. And to their credit, the front office and Ross Atkins, the GM, acknowledged they got to improve their pitching staff. And boy, did they ever.
Yoshi Tsutsugo grounded out his first time up. And
there's
again,
another late swing because of that first pitch curveball.
And it'll be interesting, Buck, to see how the roles are defined. We may see some piggybacking this year. For people who may not know, Charlie Montoyo could use a starter for 4 innings and bring in another quote-unquote starter, a guy who's used to starting, for 3 or 4 innings after him. You could have Trent Thornton start, Ryan Borucki come in after him. You could have Nate Pearson start and Anthony Kay come in after him. You can really do a lot of different things with this staff this year.
Yeah, you sure can, because you have versatility, and also the fact you have 30 players on your roster for the first 2 weeks of the season. The reason that's the case is because of a shortened spring training and the fact that you're going to use more pitchers, and you don't expect starting pitchers to give you 6 or 7 innings.
Except guys like Ryu and Shoemaker look like they can, but at other spots of the rotation that remains to be seen. Ooh. Looked like a changeup that just got away from him, only 76 miles an hour, and hit Satsuga.
He's been really good with his changeup up until this point. You can see the target by Jansen down and away, and that just gets away from Ryu all the way across the plate and hits the leadoff batter here in the 4th. Jansen had set up all the way on the outside corner, and Ryu missed his spot.
So the leadoff man aboard for Jose Martinez, the DH. Blue Jays up 3-0, bottom of the 4th. While we have a moment, we want to say hi to a member of our broadcast team, Pat Tabler, who I know is watching at home, and you saw him on the pregame show today. Tabby is going to be contributing from his home in Ohio throughout the entire season. We see him on our text chains and our email chains, and looking forward to having Tabby contribute from afar during this entire season.
Absolutely, a big part of our team, and we wish Pat the best, and we have seen him on the Zoom calls from time to time. He's going to contribute to the pre and post game show with Jamie Campbell and Joe Siddle.
No balls, 2 strikes, the count on Martinez. Interesting as we talk, you know, you and I have so many friends in our world, broadcasters for all the different teams, and every team is kind of handling situations differently this year in terms of broadcasting. Swing and a miss, good cutter away, and he gets Martinez for the first out. Had the Blue Jays played in Toronto, we would have done the home games from Rogers Center and the road games from where we are right now with the Sportsnet studio, and that's what a lot of teams are doing. Home games from the ballpark, road games from the studio. Now we're all studio, which some other teams are as well, and then other broadcast crews are doing all the games from the ballpark, even when the team is on the road, because maybe they've got a better setup, better control room, whatever, at the ballpark than they do in the studio. So everybody's kind of got a different experience.
Dwayne Stats and Brian Anderson, the Rays broadcast team, they are going to do home and road games from Tropicana Field, as they are tonight.
So they would sit when the Rays are on the road. The ballpark will be dark, I would guess, that except for their booth, which will have all of their monitors and whatever other technology they have to help them do a broadcast. But I know from talking to a lot of people, and I'm sure you've had the same experience, everybody's really excited to be back doing baseball games again.
Boy, they sure are. I know I am, and you are as well. And it's been a long time coming, but, you know, players like Trent Thornton just anxious to get back and pitch. It's been a long time. They haven't had a chance to play a regular game. Boy, Ryu is putting on a clinic right now. The way he's changing speeds and mixing up his pitches very effectively. I mean, he reminds me an awful lot of Mark Burley.
You see the 4-seam fastball. That was the cutter. A lot of the changeup. We've seen the curveball as well.
91. It looks like 95 because of the setup.
When you catch a guy like this, do you try to guess what he wants, or do you put down what you want and understand that he'll shake you off if he wants something else?
No, I would try to guess what he wants. I think that's an important thing, and you just always want to make the pitcher as comfortable as possible.
Change up down, bouncer to third. Shaw to second one. Biggio to first, not in time. Good scoop there by Vladdy at first, but Margot across safely on a fielder's choice.
Yeah, kind of a high bouncing ball to third, and Shaw makes a very deliberate throw, making sure they get that one out. Margot runs really well, but you make a great point. Look at that scoop by Guerrero. Looks like he's been doing it his whole life.
It's funny, don't you think, in the opening weeks of the season, every play that Vladdy makes or doesn't make at first will be analyzed and analyzed and analyzed some more. Right?
Well, you'll remember that at Rogers Center during a inter-squad game. He made a diving play to his right, and all kinds of players cheered him.
2 down. Here's Mike Brasso, the second baseman, 0 for 1 on the night. Ryu paying some attention to Margot over at first. Margot runs well, and again, he came from San Diego, so Ryu, who had pitched with the Dodgers for many years, is very familiar with him.
Now, this is another thing Ryu does very well. He has allowed just 6 stolen bases in his career. That makes catchers very happy.
Yeah.
6 stolen bases, 5 caught stealing, so he's a tough customer to try and get a jump on.
And you can see Ryu with a 4-seamer. When Danny Jansen puts down the signal for the 4-seamer, he then makes a motion with his hand asking for the ball up in his zone, and there was a time, especially if you threw 90, you would not throw your 4-seamer up in the zone because you were afraid you'd get hit. But now that's where a lot of swings and misses come from, and you can see Ryu deliberately pitching up in the zone with his fastball.
In that regard, I think we saw Marco Estrada do that as effectively as anybody. Throwing that 89-mile-an-hour heat upstairs, let her high.
And either getting strikeouts or fly balls. Ripped to right center field, well hit, and off the wall on a bounce. Margot around third will score without a throw. It's a double for Brasso, and the Rays are on the board. The Blue Jays now leading 3-1.
Well, and Brasso was a late addition to this 30-man roster for that reason right there. He's got some pop in his bat. He can play in the outfield, he can play in the infield, and he's got a little sting in that bat. That's a pretty good pitch. Probably below the knees on the outer half, but he stays on it and drives it past Grichuk. Boy, he kept his head down right on through that ball, and I wouldn't say that was a mistake by Ryu, just a good approach by Brasso, and Margot easily scores all the way from first. Blue Jays couldn't turn that double play.
Now Willy Adames. Adames was credited with a double, hit the ball very sharply off the body of Cavanabigio into center field and ruled a double in his first at bat. Rays on the board, now down 3-1 as they bat here in the bottom of the 4th on opening night. Changeup misses low. By the way, if you didn't see it earlier, Canadian Mike Soroka out of Calgary pitched brilliantly for the Braves tonight in their opener against the Mets at Citi Field. After Soroka left the game in the 7th inning, Yoenis Cespedes, who DH'd for the Mets tonight, hit a home run, and the Mets beat the Braves 1-0.
Yeah, Soroka, what an honor. Young pitcher with the Braves getting a chance to pitch opening day. He did a good job. What a year he had last year, and certainly earned the right. No walks, 3 strikeouts over 6 innings of scoreless ball.
Atlanta ran into a real situation today, and again, this is the world we're living in right now. Both of their catchers, Travis d'Arnaud and Tyler Flowers, both exhibiting symptoms of COVID-19 and both placed on the injured list today. So they had to go down to their alternate player pool, the other 30 guys, and call up a couple of totally unproven catchers.
Alex Jackson caught today. He had just 13 at-bats a year ago. Doesn't have a major league hit. So they go from being in real good position with their depth behind the plate to 0.
So much uncertainty about how this year is going to go, and just about everybody feeling the team that stays the healthiest might have as good a chance to win as anybody. Freddie Freeman did play for the Braves here on opening day. Remember, he was really sick with COVID a couple of weeks ago and spoke about it very openly. Inside, and the second walk issued by Ryu tonight.
And another walk that may have been semi-intentional. He pitched around the right-handed hitting Adames, as he did back in the third inning when he walked Yandy Diaz with 2 outs and struck out Hunter Renfroe. Now he's got lefty on lefty with Kiermaier. He knows how to pitch.
Kiermaier wound up grounding out his first time up. Had a good battle with Ryu, but Ryu ultimately won it. 2 on, 2 out, 2-run lead. And a cutter misses outside for ball 1.
Kiermaier is tough against lefties. He will hang in there, but he's certainly not the threat Adames is as a right-handed hitter with some pop.
You can see a much more elaborate set of signs from Jansen with a runner out at second base. Curveball for a strike.
He used more curveballs tonight than he does normally. Generally, that's the pitch he uses the least. Just 12% of the time. A year ago, he used that curveball.
Right on the outside corner. Joe West liked it, and it's 1-2.
This is a hitter's nightmare. A pitcher that can throw strikes with any pitch and throw them in spots like that last fastball. Well, he got a piece of that cutter.
So what do you do as a hitter? He's got too many pitches to guess. Do you just try to react to what you see?
Yeah, I think so, because it's not 95. You just have to be short and quick. Try to put the barrel on the ball. Especially in this situation with a runner in scoring position and 2 outs. You're in the hole 1-2. You can't think of anything dramatic, and certainly Kiermaier with his speed is always threatened to get on base with an infield hit like that. If he keeps that fair, that's going to be bang bang at first.
He's just battling right now, trying to fight him off and get another one. Blue Jays with 3 runs in the top half of the 4th inning on an RBI single by Randall Grichuk. Then a couple of sacrifice flies. Rowdy Tellez and Teoscar Hernandez. The Rays have come back with 1 here in the bottom half. Swing and a miss. The curveball again. Kiermaier slams the bat down in disgust as the inning's over with the Blue Jays leading 3-1. Time now for a Blue Jays Central update. Here are Jamie and Joe in the Samsung Sportsnet Now. Live stream all the sports you've been missing. NHL, Raptors, Blue Jays, plus much more. Make your move to Sportsnet now. Underway here at the top of the 5th inning. Dan Shulman, Buck Martinez, Hazel May. Opening night for the Toronto Blue Jays, leading the Tampa Bay Rays 3-1. As the Blue Jays play the first of 3 down at Tropicana Field before they go to Washington. Jansen hit one off the end of the bat, shallow right field, and Renfroe can't get there. It'll be a base hit for Jansen.
Renfroe did a pretty good job of getting his glove on it to make sure that ball didn't get past him. If that ball gets past him, it's 2 for sure, 3, and maybe an inside the Parker. He's a good defender, and we talked about his arm strength, but Jansen hits it off the end of the bat, a little flare into right field, a sinking line drive, and watch Renfroe smother this ball, knowing he can't catch it, but wanted to get his glove on it, and keeps Jansen to a single.
Wow, look at that swing on a first pitch curveball from Bo Bichette. Obviously up there looking curveball. Remember back at Rogers Center in one of the intra-squad games, I think Jacob Waguespack was pitching. First pitch of the game, and Waguespack threw a get-me-over curveball, and Bo hit it out. And everybody was like, who swings at a first pitch curveball to start a game? You're always up there looking fastball. You take the curveball, and even Waguespack was kind of laughing when Bo hit it out.
Well, remember, this is his 3rd at bat against Morton, and he and his dad have had a couple of different conversations in the dugout. So, hey, next time up there, look for that breaking ball on the first pitch. Morton turned that ball over, put a little sink on it, down and in. Dante Bichette had a heck of a career as a hitter, and he was around some great hitters. Manager in Colorado was Don Baylor, who really had a positive impact on Senior's career as a hitter.
So now we see Bo Bichette get into his two-strike approach. Much smaller leg kick, really, as we mentioned, more of a toe tap. He'll still swing hard, but he's done a nice job with 2 strikes with this approach.
He's quick enough to fight off that inside heater with that 2-strike approach. He's got great hands, so he doesn't need that dramatic leg kick. And what he hears from his dad all the time is, hey, be a tough out. And I think that's the approach we have seen from this Blue Jays tonight against Charlie Morton. This Blue Jays lineup has had some real good at-bats.
46 games was all he got last year. Came up late and missed a few games at the end of the season, but boy, did he make his mark. And he fights it off into right center for a base hit. Great job with a couple of strikes on him by Bo Bichette to advance Jansen to second.
Makes Dad happy for sure. A good at bat, another 2-strike base hit for Bo. And again, back-to-back hits to start the inning, just like last inning. This ball is down around the label, but he's able to fight it off. No stride, just a little pushback, and he uses his hands to get to that high pitch. So this is where every team wants to do damage. Turn the lineup over. It's your number 9 hitter on base, the leadoff man. He gets a base hit, and now you got Biggio, Guerrero, and Shaw as Kyle Snyder is out for another chat with Charlie Morton.
And the Rays have gotten a couple of guys up at the bullpen, and we will see a lot of this. Tampa Bay, Kevin Cash, they always use every arm at their disposal. Left-hander Jalen Beeks, right-hander Ryan Thompson, and look at that throwing motion for Thompson. Every guy in the Tampa Bay pen, and there are 11 of them, they bring a different look or a different specialty pitch. No 2 guys really have anything in common. Biggio up there hacking at the first pitch, but he pulls it foul.
Another guy looking for that first pitch breaking ball. Well, Dan, you make a great point about that bullpen for Tampa Bay, and that's by design. They want to make sure they have a bunch of different looks down in that bullpen. So when they go to them, especially in a 3-game series, you're not going to see the same look every night.
Well, if you're the Jays here, you're up a couple, middle innings, you got a really tough customer on the mound. But given that it's opening night, 77 pitches, like you might have Morton here for his last couple of batters. You got some of your best hitters coming up. Jays got to capitalize to some degree here.
Boy, another good take by Biggio, and we saw this last year with him. He's got a great strike zone awareness where he understands what he wants to hit. And Guerrero, he's already had a hit tonight. He's waiting on deck.
Now, Biggio has seen the 4-man outfield in each of his first 2 at-bats tonight, but that was because nobody was on base. With a runner or runners on, like this situation, they can't afford to do that, so they play him to pull, but they've only got 3 guys in the outfield. By the way, I don't think I mentioned this earlier. By the way, in some of their intra-squad games, they experimented with a 2-man outfield. Biggio hammers one right field. Down the line, it is gone. A 3-run homer for Kevin Biggio. And the Blue Jays now lead 6-1.
Boy, what a good at bat by Biggio. Cavan hit 16 home runs a year ago. And he gets the first one in the books here on opening night. A 3-run home run. Jansen single. Bichette single with 2 outs. 4-seam fastball. He laid off a couple of tough pitches. Gets something he can drive, and does he ever. First home run of the season. And Biggio, with a couple of hits tonight, he has extended his on-base streak to 30 straight games going back to last year.
And how about the Blue Jays beating up on one of the best in Charlie Morton, who is out of the game. 6-1 Jays, top 5. 3-run homer, 2 for 3 on the night, has blown it open to a certain extent. The Jays now leading 6-1 in the 5th inning. And again, we talked about it, Buck doesn't get the headlines or attention that a Guerrero or a Bichette get, but You know, whenever baseball gets back to being a 162-game sport, you look at the on-base percentage, the power, the speed. This guy's got a chance to be a very important player.
A very special player with a great knowledge of how to play the game. He had a bunt base hit to start the rally in the 4th inning and delivers a 2-run home run. And now we're going to see a young man make his major league debut, Ryan Thompson. He's 28 years old, longtime minor leaguer. Got a chance, and this was the first time in his career he has ever gone to a big league spring training camp, and he made the ball club for Tampa Bay. Side armor, a lot of funky movement in his pitches, but he is on here in relief of Charlie Morton.
The first batter he'll face in his big league career, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. First pitch swinging, ground ball to short. And Guerrero retired. Now this is the kind of situation where you never know. Kevin Cash might say, okay, you got the righty, I'll bring in the lefty now to face the lefty. But remember the new rule. All pitchers who come into a game have to face 3 batters unless they get to the end of an inning. And the idea behind it, this rule was coming in anyways. This has nothing to do with COVID, is to try to speed up the game and reduce the number of mid-inning pitching changes. And it's going to make strategy different for managers. Biggio's hair is in midseason form. I will say that.
Looks like he just got a haircut for opening day. But he's got a homer.
Travis Shaw, a strikeout and a walk. So here's Thompson facing a lefty. And obviously with that arm angle, you'd imagine he's much tougher on righties than he is on lefties.
Boy, he drops that breaking ball in there for a strike. Thompson's 28 years old and came out of the Houston organization. He had Tommy John surgery. And then he was rehabbing. The Houston Astros kept him on a AAA roster because they didn't think they needed to protect him because of that Tommy John surgery. But Tampa Bay drafted him in the AAA draft.
Yeah, the minor league version of the Rule 5 draft. The Rays are not only creative in the way they play the game, they're creative in the way that their front office looks at things in terms of what skill sets they're looking for, how they acquire players, when and why they trade players. They're constantly recycling their roster.
Well, they can't afford to spend a lot of money on their roster, so their salary is always near the bottom in Major League Baseball. But boy, they do a great job. 19 of the players on this 30-man roster have been acquired by a trade. And there was a time when they relied heavily on draft picks because they were always finishing last in the American League. And they had David Price and Evan Longoria and a lot of first-round draft picks. Not the case any longer.
And there are a lot of people who think in this kind of a crazy season, with all the versatility they've got, that they've got a legitimate chance to win the World Series. Kevin Biggio and the Blue Jays trying to put a damper on that party here on opening night, leading 6-1 in the 5th inning. Hall of Fame dad Craig's got to be awfully proud and excited watching his son hit a home run on opening night. Remember, for Biggio and Bichette and Guerrero, this is their first opening day. They weren't with the team opening day last year. Shaw pops it up, 2 down, and we've got an update with Jamie Campbell.
Dan, Joey Votto hit 1 home run off a lefty last year. He just did so off left-hander Matt Boyd. Nobody is doubting Cincinnati as a contender in the National League Central. They lead the Tigers 5-1.
Yeah, Cincinnati making all kinds of moves in the offseason. And boy, the National League Central, which is always a fascinating division, looks like it will be this year. Will it be the Reds or the Cardinals or the Cubs or the Brewers?
Well, I tell you what, I really like Cincinnati. I mean, they went out and brought in Castellanos and Moustakas. They got a good pitching staff. Something great tonight. Opening day starter Louis Castillo, the young right-hander. Trevor Bauer. They got a pretty good team.
Yeah, remember the Blue Jays were interested in Moustakas as well, but signed with Cincinnati, and eventually, again, Shaw kind of filling that role for the Jays.
Eugenio Suarez is a guy that doesn't get much credit, but he's a monster third baseman.
Randall Grichuk had an RBI single, line drive base hit to left on a 3-1 pitch his last time up. In on his hands, and it's popped up. Diaz will make the catch to retire the side, but not before the Blue Jays put 3 more on the board. Kevin Biggio with a home run on opening night. Hitting it down the right field line, and the Jays lead 6-1. The MLB app is the place to get all your baseball action. In-game video highlights, live pitch-by-pitch, breaking news, player updates, stat leaderboard standings, and much more. Download the MLB app today, the #1 app for live baseball. That is what we call a beauty shot in the business, and was it ever? You live down in that neck of the woods down in Florida.
Clearwater Beach, Sand Key, that whole area, gorgeous.
So for those who don't know, and I know you've talked about it, I've seen it, so you had to come up and quarantine, right, to get here. So
14 days.
Yep.
And you know, Ben Wagner, the radio voice of the Blue Jays, and I came up basically on the same day, not on the same flight, but we both checked in and went through 14 days of quarantine and did a lot of cooking.
There's Mike Zunino. Yeah, part of my one of my, I don't know, responsibilities, but I enjoy doing it. I would go to the ballpark and watch the intra-squad game, and I would text you. It would be like text play-by-play. What's that? Pearson's on the mound. You know, who's up? How hard is he throwing? How does he look? You know, whenever anything would happen. Ground ball to third, and Shaw makes the play, 1 down.
Well, I know it really helped me, and I know Ben feels the same way. And we were there at the ballpark getting to look at the guys, and of course we had no telecast, no broadcast.
Right.
So
yeah, I was the fortunate one who could go down there, so I was glad to do it. And you know, those were interesting days too. You'd walk into the ballpark, you'd go through your protocol as a member of the media and walk into the ballpark, and we would all socially distance at assigned seats in a makeshift press box at Rogers Center, and you'd look out and there would be like 58 players on the field at the beginning going through all kinds of different drills, and then the intra-squad game would start. And intra-squad games are interesting because of course you can end an inning whenever you want. You don't want a pitcher to throw too many pitches, but it is clear, and all teams are like this, that Charlie Montoyo and Ross Atkins and Pete Walker, that there were jobs to be won and lost during summer camp, and some guys did that. Some guys really improved their situation, like a Santiago Espinal, for example, who may have only made the team because Brandon Drury is on the injured list. But Espinal did enough to kind of steal that spot, take that spot. Grounder to short. 2 down, and there are 4 or 5, I think, in the bullpen, too, like Jordan Romano. There's Espinal there. He's an interesting guy. Blue Jays got him in the Steve Pearce deal with the Red Sox 2 years ago, and I kept texting you and Ben and Siddle the same thing every day. The more you watch this guy, the more you see. He does something every day that you notice. And he'll get a chance every now and again against a lefty or something like that. And he's a good pickup for the Blue Jays.
And he's another versatile guy. He can play the infield, he can play the outfield, but he can swing the bat. That's the biggest thing. I think his at-bats were very consistent, very impressive, all the way going back into February and March in spring training. But Charlie Montoyo has been impressed with his attitude, his approach, and of course he's never played a day in the big league, so why wouldn't you volunteer to do whatever it takes?
Hunter Renfroe, the batter. You know, Jordan Romano, I think, is another guy who just opened up some eyes. Everybody has always been excited about what he might do, but he has been throwing unbelievably well, or did during summer camp. Pete Walker called it a devastating slider, and his fastball's been consistently 97, 98. He'll get some important innings. He could figure into this game tonight in a couple of innings.
Yeah, he really tightened up his slider, but he understands a little bit more about what it takes to get big league hitters out. He's going to be an interesting guy. You know, Ryu has now thrown 86 pitches, and before the game, Charlie Montoyo was asked if Ryu has a pitch count, and he said yes, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. He said, I don't want Kevin Cass to know what the pitch count is, but he said all of our pitchers are on a pitch count early in this season.
Boy, that changeup's a weapon for him, isn't it?
Boy, it sure is. And we mentioned last year he threw a larger percentage of changeups than any of his pitches that he used. And the Blue Jays, again, and you know what, it's just one start, but what a sign this was. I think this kind of surprised everybody that they would end up with a frontline pitcher, an all-star pitcher, who agrees to a 4-year contract with the Blue Jays.
Missed outside and a full count.
Boy, when he misses off the plate. He doesn't miss over the heart of the plate. And that's why he's been able to keep the ball in the ballpark consistently.
Change up away for ball 4. And again, he's such a good control pitcher. Only walked 24 batters all of last season. That's his 3rd tonight. That'll get Pete Walker on the phone.
Yeah, I think the first 2 were basically pitch around the hitters, with Diaz in the 3rd and with Adames in the 4th. But here with 2 outs, I don't think that's an intentional walk. I think that one got away. And there is the aforementioned Jordan Romano, just like you said, Dan.
Markham, Ontario native, and a guy who Charlie Montoyo has consistently mentioned could work his way into high leverage innings late in ball games. A little bit earlier maybe than they wanted him, but this speaks to the fact that they are leading this game, and he is a guy who is going to pitch in games in which the Blue Jays are leading, which helps tell you how they value him. And again, in a 60-game season, you can't let leads slip away.
No, not at all. And when you have a lead, you got to make sure you take advantage of it. But I think he's the perfect guy to follow Ryu into a game, because he throws 98 and got a wicked slider. These hitters are thinking about slowing down at the plate all night long to battle against Ryu, and then all of a sudden you've got to turn it up a notch. Good complimentary move.
(6-1) Jays, bottom 5. Are you trying to get out of this inning? Doesn't get the call there. 2 balls and a strike.
Yeah, Charlie's not going to wait very long to make a move here. We mentioned the pitch count up to 92 now. Got a 5-run lead in a ballpark that you've always had trouble winning games. The one thing you're not going to consider is trying to get Ryu a win. He needs to get the 3rd out of his 5th inning to qualify for a win, but at this point of his career, that really doesn't mean so much. A win is more important to the team than it is to an individual.
Enough on the fastball to get it by him. 3-2.
This will more than likely be his last hitter. 3-2, 2 outs. Next guy's a right-handed hitter. If he gets out of the inning, that'll be it. If he doesn't, Romano will come in.
So Renfroe will be on the move. Left center field, deep. Grichuk back, gone. 2-run homer for Yoshi Tsutsugo in his first big league game, and that'll bring the Rays a little bit closer at 6-3.
I saw Tsutsugo during the 2017 World Baseball Classic. He had 3 home runs in that series for Japan, and all 3 of them were just like that. Opposite field power. And he had 255 home runs in Japan. He knew he was going to get a pitch for a strike, and he rides it out over the fence in left center. He's got big power, and this is one thing the Rays needed. They were 21st in the major leagues last season in home runs. And as they do often after a home run in Japan, he takes the bow to his teammate.
You know, a different situation with no fans in the stands. I mean, that's a baseball that he wants to have as a souvenir, and I assume a clubhouse attendant could just go out and find it.
Yeah, the only people that are in the stands are employees.
Yeah. Ryu will stay. Romano maybe not ready in time. And now Jose Martinez lines one down the left field line. That'll get down into the corner for extra bases, and Martinez can glide into second with a double.
Well, and this inning may be a product of shortened spring training. He was off a little bit with his command in this inning. Got 2 quick outs, 2 ground ball outs, and then walked Hunter Renfroe. And that set the table for Tsutsugo, and now Jose Martinez gets a double. Martinez had 13 doubles a year ago. picks up his first base hit as a Tampa Bay Ray.
And that will signal the end of the night for Hyun-Jin Ryu. He'll lead with 2 outs in the 5th, and the Jays leading 6-3.
Do you suffer from skin irritation or razor bumps?
Sports are back, and aren't we all happy about that? Whether you want to see the Blue Jays, the Raptors, or every game of the Stanley Cup playoffs, only Sportsnet has it all. Check sportsnet.ca/schedule for up-to-date time and channel details. Opening night for the Toronto Blue Jays, leading the race 6-3, bottom of the 5th. Here comes Jordan Romano. You see his numbers from last year. Came up, had some good outings for the Blue Jays, got caught in a numbers game, optioned out, had a little shoulder issue, lost some velocity, never got back to where he was. But boy, has he come back with a vengeance, at least through summer camp. And here he is into the game for the Blue Jays, who lead 6-3. Manuel Margot thought maybe we'd see a pinch hitter here, Buck, because Kevin Cash has all kinds of left-handed bats on his bench. But Margot will stay.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's 5th inning, and you've got Joey Wendell, Ji-Man Choi, Brandon Lau as left-handed hitters, and then the second catcher, Michael Perez. The Rays are actually carrying 3 catchers, which is kind of unusual. You don't see that very often.
There's the slider, but he missed outside, and he falls behind 3-0.
Hyun-Jin Ryu going 4 2/3 and gave up that home run to Tsutsugo.
Romano bulked up by about 10 pounds this winter, worked with weighted baseballs as one way to strengthen himself. And now that I think everybody is on the same page and he's going to be a reliever, kind of didn't focus on a changeup, which was a pitch he's been trying to work on, just focused on fastball and slider. Missed outside, though, to walk him. And maybe that's one of the reasons why the velocity ticked up and the slider got a little bit sharper.
Yeah, and he also used that Rapsodo machine that gives you feedback on the spin of your breaking ball, and he tightened up his breaking ball. And they mentioned the depth on the bench. Brandon Lau, the second baseman, an all-star a year ago. And this guy, not big in stature, but boy, he's got some pop in his bat. Hit a ball into the upper deck at Rogers Center last year, early in the season, and kind of caught everybody by surprise with the power. So he's going to come on as a pinch hitter. Jansen with a quick trip to the mound to remind Romano of what they're trying to do here. First and second.
Boy, funny inning. Ryu got a couple of quick outs on ground outs here to start the 5th, then walked Renfroe. Tsutsugo takes him deep, then the double to Martinez. Now Romano walks Margot, and all of a sudden the tying run is at the plate.
That's why Cash waited to this opportunity to get Loud at the plate. 17 home runs a year ago and just 296 at bats. There's some thunder in that bat.
Back-to-back sliders, and it's 0-2.
Yeah, and Jordan talked about the 2 different sliders. As you look at the bullpen for Tampa Bay, starting to get loose. That's Pete Fairbanks, another big 6'5" right-hander that can throw in the upper 90s. But now with 2 strikes, he wants to throw that hard breaking ball on the inside, throw it down and in, and get Loud to swing over the top of it. You don't have to be aggressive in the strike zone when you're ahead 0-2.
Ryu could not complete the 5th inning. Romano tried to put away the Rays here with a couple of men on. Fastball, and he got him. 97 right down the middle to strike him out and retire the side. End of 5. Blue Jays 6 and the Rays 3. Will take on the Los Angeles Lakers August 1st, 8 days from now, in the first of their 8 games before the regular season comes to an end. And the playoffs begin in the bubble down in Orlando. Raptors are healthy and confident. Brandon Lau will stay in the game at second base after pinch hitting for Brasso. Thompson is still on the mound as we go to the top of the 6th inning with the Blue Jays leading 6-3. Dan Shulman, Buck Martinez, Hazel May. Very glad to be doing a ball game and very glad you're along with us here on opening night. It's going to get busy. 60 games in 66 days. Blue Jays and Rays back at it again tomorrow night. And then we'll wrap up the series on Sunday afternoon before the Blue Jays head up to Washington, D.C. Actually, tomorrow an afternoon game. Forgive me. Tomorrow a 3:10 first pitch, and then just after 1 o'clock on Sunday. Then the Blue Jays head to Washington. They'll play 2 games against the Nationals as the road team, and then the Nationals were supposed to go to Toronto back on the original schedule. But the Blue Jays, by all accounts, will stay in Washington, but they'll be the home team for the last 2 games because Buffalo will not be ready yet. And then either the Blue Jays will go to Buffalo to host the Phillies, or they'll go to Philadelphia as the home team. And that'll give them about 10 more days to get Salem Field ready in Buffalo.
Yeah, and the first home game would be pushed back until August 11th.
Tellez pops it up. Do you think, Buck, that there is any way to tell whether the uncertainty and eventually playing in Buffalo and having this long road trip at the start of the season, if they wind up playing home games in Philly, is there any way to guess or to tell if this will have any kind of a negative effect on them between the white lines?
No, it's very difficult when we don't have a chance to visit with the players because of this COVID-19 virus, but it appears as though they haven't. I mean, anytime you hear them talk in a Zoom call or an interview, they're all upbeat and they always say the right things, and even the younger players. And this team is very young. A lot of players on this team, 11 out of 15 position players, have never played a full season in the big leagues. And I just think that it's one of those situations. You see Joe West behind the plate, the veteran umpire who began his umpiring career in 1976. He has called the 2nd most games in history, and that's a fair ball.
Teoscar Hernandez lines one into the left field corner, and he's got his first base hit of the season, and it's a double. You know, as you can tell, you look at the umpires. We just saw Vic Carapazza out at second. You'll see Joe West here behind the plate again, not wearing masks. It is not mandatory for the umpires to wear masks on the field. I believe it is encouraged, but it's not mandatory. And if you think here they're playing in a dome, but you know, on a hot day in St. Louis or Kansas City or Baltimore or something, as you look at Stu Sherwater, the Regina native who was calling the intra-squad games in Toronto, was also with the Blue Jays in Boston and is now down in Tampa as well. I guess the feeling is that it could be difficult on a very hot day for an umpire to feel comfortable, perhaps with a mask on for several hours.
Yeah, in all of this, players and umpires, it's all left up to them to make the decision. Of course, Joe West, he's always been very outspoken about, I'm going to play. They asked him if he wanted to opt out because of his age. He's been doing this a long time. I believe he's 67 years old. And he said no. He said, I'm going to umpire, and he's obviously got a shot at breaking a record, but he can't break the record this year. There aren't enough games left. Bill Clem has umpired more games than anybody in history, and Joe West is second, and Bruce Fremming is third. Only 3 umpires in the history of the game have umpired over 5,000 games.
Wow. Here's Derek Fisher, 1 for 2 on the night. One thing I think is happening too, and I don't know that we ever get full disclosure on this, nor should we really, but baseball is trying to minimize the commercial air travel for umpires. So I believe umpires are sometimes flying on team charters to get from one city to the next city to start the next series. But by definition, that means you would do consecutive series of the same team too. And you know, what if there are some calls that didn't go your way? Now you're on the airplane with the team. But again, these are unusual times, to say the least, and every effort that can be made to reduce the risk to everybody involved has to be applauded.
Well, and two, I mean, these are the things that you don't think about. I mean, how do umpires get around? How do they camera people coming in and out of the ballpark. What about now with the Blue Jays playing in Buffalo? They're going to have the scoreboard technology shifted down there. There are going to be so many things that have to be done on the fly just to make a baseball game happen. And I think this brings into reality just how many people it takes in a normal season to put on a Major League Baseball game.
Yeah, I think the traveling party for every team is reduced. There aren't as many coaches and other support staff on the road. Sweeping breaking ball misses inside, and a full count on Fisher. Again, if you were joining us late, Fisher in the lineup because Lourdes Gurriel still not quite 100%. Some discomfort in his side that has kept him out the last few days. He didn't play in the games in Boston. Charlie Montoyo saying he hopes to have him available tomorrow. And he'll take a walk.
Take on any project with Home Hardware, proud partner of the Toronto Blue Jays. Here's how.
Blue Jays with something brewing potentially again here. Runners at first and second with a 1 out in the 6th inning. They scored 3 in the 4th. They scored 3 more in the 5th on a Kevin Biggio home run. One of the guys who came in on that home run at the plate right now, Danny Jansen, 1 for 2 with a base hit.
Ryan Thompson making his Major League debut here for Tampa Bay. Gets that first sinking fastball to Danny Jansen, and right at the bottom of the zone. Danny just got the top half of the baseball. Thompson came through the Houston Astros organization, had Tommy John surgery, missed all of 2018. Pitched in just 16 games last year. 14 at AA and 2 at AAA.
You can see on the left sleeve of all the Blue Jay players, you see 3 patches. One says United for Change. One says Black Lives Matter. The other, the third one, is in memory of Tony Fernandez, your former teammate, one of the great Blue Jays of all time. The Blue Jays will wear that #1 patch all season for Fernandez. They will get the out at second. Fisher is forced. Fielder's choice for Jansen, so it's runners on the corners, 2 down.
Danny Jansen really runs well. And he forced Adames into a bad throw. Fisher is out on the force out at second, but Adames' feed to Brandon Lau at second wasn't very good. And once it was all flying, Lau recognized all they were going to get was the out at second. But you can see Adames doesn't make a very good throw. It's down and away to Lau, who just came into the game as a pinch hitter. So they're able to get the force out, nothing more. That gives Bo Bichette a chance.
Bo's 1 for 3 tonight. Singled and scored on the Biggio home run last inning. Has also grounded out and struck out. And Jalen Beeks, the left-hander, is up again, and presumably that's with Biggio on deck. Rays won 96 games last year, then beat Oakland in the wild card game and took Houston to a decisive 5th game in the division series. They are deep, they are talented, and they got a great farm system too. Most of the scouting services feel that the Rays have maybe the best farm system in baseball.
Again, they have been so good at drafting and developing players.
Boy, Bichette upset with himself right there. 2-1. Kevin Cash, 42 years of age, the manager. As dad Dante looks on again with Bo batting. In the intra-squad games at Rogers Center, Dante was sitting on a stool by the third base dugout with his phone videoing Bo's at bats. Throw to first is in time to get him, and the Blue Jays will leave a couple of men on. They go to the bottom of the 6th at the Trop. 6-3 Jays.
Anderson wearing Black Lives Matter t-shirts during batting practice and then chose to kneel during the national anthem in peaceful protest of social injustice. During his pregame media availability, Vladdy said he reached out to teammate Anthony Alford to convey his support for the black community. Quote, "I'm hurt inside," Guerrero said. "It's the reality of things that are happening for people with our color." Dan, as you mentioned earlier, MLB is making Black Lives Matter center stage on both opening days.
Hazel, thank you. And we could see in that shot Alford kneeling, Cavadabigio kneeling, and Santiago Espinal kneeling as well. And Charlie Montoyo is out of the dugout speaking with Stu Sherwater and Joe West. Here as we get ready to go to the bottom of the 6th inning. Not sure what it's about. Jordan Romano was back on the mound.
No, it's very unusual to have manager come out in that situation. Nothing has really been controversial, but he certainly had something on his mind he wanted to discuss with the crew chief, Joe West, who's up and behind home plate.
Charlie was talking before the game about how he'll have to remember when he does go out, whether it's with a question or to argue something. Again, you've got to respect the social distancing. You've got to stay 6 feet away. Major League Baseball with a health and safety protocol handbook, if you will, well in excess of 100 pages. And NBA, NHL, NFL, MLS, every league's got to do the same thing in an effort to try to get sports played. So you got to respect the rules.
Anthony Bass, in his first year with the Blue Jays, starting to loosen up. Last year he pitched in Seattle.
Sharply hit, but right at Bichette at short for the first out. Adames retired.
This is where the Tampa Bay Rays did most of their damage last year. 6th, 7th, and 8th inning. They outscored their opponents by 73 runs. That just reflects the fact of their bullpen. Their bullpen would come in and shut down the opponents, and the offense always felt like, hey, we stay close till we get late in the game, and our bullpen will give us a chance to win. Overall for the season, their run differential was plus 113. Most of their damage was done in the 6th, 7th, and 8th inning.
Kevin Kiermaier, the batter. Kiermaier 0 for 2 with a ground out and a strikeout. I think most people probably still picking the Yankees to win the American League East, but there are a lot of people thinking that the Rays are right there with them because of the versatility and depth on the roster and the kind of season that it looks like it's going to be. We only touched on it. We should mention again for people who may not have heard, just yesterday, literally a couple of hours before the season began, Major League Baseball and the Players Association agreed to expand the playoffs this year. So instead of 5 teams making it from each league, 8 teams will make it from each league. And I would think that that would have gotten a round of applause within the Blue Jay clubhouse.
Yeah, I think so. Giving an opportunity for anybody to play in the postseason. You can see Matt Shoemaker out. He's going to start tomorrow. But anytime you have a chance to get in the postseason, even in an abbreviated season like 60 games, everybody's going to be encouraged by that fact. Every division winner and every second place club in each league will play in the postseason, and then 2 wild card teams from each league will also get into the tournament. They'll be seeded 1 through 8.
But wait, there's more.
Yes.
1-2 slider and a swing and a miss. Kiermaier down on strikes, 2 down. So the top seed, the number 1 seed, if I say anything wrong here, stop me, but I think this is right. The number 1 seed will get to choose who they want to play. And then the 2 will choose from the remaining, and the 3 will choose from the remaining.
Yeah, it's an unusual season for sure, and an unusual format, but I think it's one that can be very exciting.
But wait, there's more. It's not a 1-game wild card situation like that round was. It's now a best of 3. But all 3 games take place at the ballpark of the higher seed. So let's say the Blue Jays finished 8th and the Yankees were 1st, and the Yankees chose the Blue Jays as their opponent. The Jays would go to Yankee Stadium and play a best of 3 series there.
Yeah, you have to give the season some impact. And because if you're the top seed, then you get the value of playing at home in the first round, and Kevin Cash can appreciate that. They had a terrific series against Houston last year. They went to the final game.
Mike Zunino, the batter. The other thing, too, because they don't want the season to run too late, and in a condensed schedule, you could have so many tiebreakers. There are no tiebreaker games. It's all mathematical. It's all tiebreakers done by math, not on the field.
Even if you got rained out and everything, games are not going to be made up and all that stuff.
Right.
I mean, you could play a different number of games than somebody else in your division.
So it's head to head, and then it's within your own division, whatever it is. So there will be no one game playoffs to decide
the seeding.
Who's out.
Right. But there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
Yeah. And I tell you what, if I'm a 500 team, 8th best team in my league, and they tell me I can go play a best of 3, I don't care where they tell me to play.
Yeah, because the players have been guaranteed a pool of $50 million. Jordan Romano, this is that big sweeping breaking ball. He throws 2 pitches, and he calls them both sliders. One's bigger, one's harder. The bigger one, he feels like he can throw more consistently for a strike, and the harder one is that finish, late breaking hard one. That one.
Zunino walks. We got an update with Jamie.
Dan, this seems to encapsulate baseball during a pandemic. After a base hit by Orlando Arcia, first baseman Anthony Rizzo reaches into the back of his pocket and offers him some sanitizer. Cubs have a 2-0 lead on Milwaukee.
What a nice guy.
Baseball in a pandemic. Pitching change. Romano out. Anthony Bass coming in. Blue Jay debut is Anthony Bass, 31 years of age, with Seattle last year, had a .356 ERA in 44 appearances, but was taken off the 40-man roster. The Blue Jays happy to have him, and again, he's a guy that Charlie Montoyo, Pete Walker say figures into situations like this, maybe even later in games like this when the Jays have the lead.
Well, and he's really valuable because he neutralizes both lefties and righties. Lefties hit 165 against him a year ago. Righties hit 195, and that's hard to imagine Seattle couldn't use somebody like that out of their bullpen. But the Blue Jays are happy to have him.
Yandy Diaz takes a fastball right over the outside corner. 0-1. It was without question a priority for the Blue Jays to get more hard-throwing relievers.
Yeah.
This guy's one of them.
Swing and miss type of relievers where you come in with runners on base and they don't advance because you strike them out. Boy, another good pitch. 2 pitches down and away, and that's what you want from a guy coming into the ball game. Let's strike 1, strike 2. Don't give Diaz any more information than you have to.
Missed outside with a slider. And a lot of times when the Jays are leading, this may be the pattern that we see. Jordan Romano to Anthony Bass to Rafael Dolis, who was a closer in Japan. Pitched with the Cubs 6, 7, 8 years ago. Last 4 years in Japan. Blue Jays really like him. And then, of course, Ken Giles, the closer. Ooh.
Boy, look at that swing. That's an emergency hack if I've ever seen one. Bass went down and away, and then runs a fastball up in the kitchen of Diaz, and he does all he can do just to foul it off. He was diving out over the plate trying to protect that outside corner and almost walked into one. A great block by Jansen. And you know, Danny catching Bass for the first time in a regular season game, and everything's different. Pitchers have more intensity. The break on your breaking ball is a little bit harder. You never know where it's going to bounce, but Jansen's worked so hard on his blocking skills. He made that look easy.
Towards third, Shaw in time, and a big out by Bass to end the bottom of the 6th. Blue Jays, Kevin Biggio will lead off the 7th, and Kevin Biggio with the biggest hit of the night so far.
His second hit of the night, and this is his first home run of the season. High and away fastball, 99 miles an hour off the bat. He went 355 feet. Biggio had 16 homers last year. He's already got one in the books. StatCast AI powered by Google Cloud. And Kevin Biggio off to a good start. 2 hits in his first game of the season. That home run was a 3-run shot back in the 5th inning.
He'll face a new pitcher for the Rays. Left-hander Jalen Beeks comes into the game. A year ago, had a 4.31 ERA and 33 appearances for Tampa Bay. Started some games as well. Biggio, Guerrero, and Shaw coming up for the Blue Jays here in the 7th inning. And again, Beeks has to face 3 batters. New rule this year. And if you're a reliever in the Tampa Bay pen, you either have a particular pitch that's a real weapon for you that you throw more often than just about anybody else in baseball, or you got a funky delivery, or both. And I think Beeks would fall into the funky delivery department. As you can see, he really hides that ball behind his left hip.
Yeah, everybody's got a different look. Either you throw real hard or you got a wicked breaking ball. He has a very short arm stroke, Dan, and you alluded to the fact he's tough to pick up, but he hides that ball, kind of tucks it right on his hip, and you don't see the ball a long time as a hitter. Another 4 outfield defense for Biggio.
Joe West will ring him up, and Cavan saying at least appeal down to third, but West says he went around.
Yeah, it looked like Cavan checked his swing, but Joe West, the veteran, calls him for committing.
You know, you think Craig's sitting at home saying, Cavan, he did that to me a couple of times back in the day, too.
Yeah. Joe West didn't even look down to the third base umpire. He called it himself.
Now Guerrero. Wow, big cut. Vladdy tonight 1 for 3. Hit a ground ball base hit into right field back in the 4th inning and came in to score on a sac fly later on in that inning. 21 years old. Well, look at the run on that 2-seamer. Ran right away from him.
Yeah, Beeks, the background as a starter, so he's got the full complement of pitches, and that ball really took off away from Guerrero. Biggio not too pleased about that call by the home plate umpire, I'm sure. He was up to a good start, 2 for 3, until called out for that strikeout.
Two and 2 on Guerrero. And he got him.
Took a little bit off that pitch, down and away, threw it in a good spot. Well, Beeks gets his first 2 batters on strikes here to start the top of the 2nd. There's that 2-seam grip. Just a little sinking fastball down and away, and Guerrero's out in front. Backed off that pitch a little bit. There's that short arm stroke. You can see it's kind of a funky grip, a changeup type of 2-seamer. Throws it with his 2 middle fingers. Some people refer that as a fosh, kind of a forkball changeup hybrid.
I tell you, if I'm like a free agent pitcher with something funky in my delivery, I'm telling my agent to call the Rays right away, because they love all the different looks they can bring out of the bullpen. Ooh, Travis Shaw was stunned, and I can't blame him that pitch was called a strike. It looked like it was well off the plate.
Yeah, and that puts a hitter in such a hole. You're trying to get a look at a new pitcher into the ball game, and you take a pitch, think it's off the plate, and all of a sudden it's 0-2. Shaw facing Beeks for the first time, and everybody in that Blue Jays dugout anxious to take a look at Jalen Beeks should they get a chance to face him. Bo Bichette won't face him.
2 and 2. Jays back at it with the Rays tomorrow afternoon. Vladimir Guerrero will face Ryan Yarbrough. He'll be the starter for the Rays, and the Blue Jays will send Matt Shoemaker to the mound. Neither team has announced its starting pitcher yet for Sunday. For the Rays, you're probably saying, well, where's Tyler Glasnow? Where's Blake Snell? Neither one of them is quite where they need to be right now. It sounds like Glasnow is going to pitch Monday, the 4th game, when the Rays play Atlanta, 4th game of the season. Snell had a rough one in an intra-squad game. I'm not sure the Blue Jays will see him. Driven to deep left field, and that'll be over the head of Margot and off the base of the fence. And Shaw with his first hit as a Blue Jay, and it's a double.
Boy, Travis Shaw, boy, what a good approach that was. He stayed on that pitch away. Shaw a year ago hit 102 against lefty pitching. It's a cutter that stays out over the plate. Remember that pitch that was called a strike early in the bat? It was about in the same spot, so he wasn't going to take that borderline pitch away, and comes up with his first hit as a Blue Jay.
Blue Jays looking to extend this 3-run lead. Randall Grichuk, the batter, 1 for 3 with an RBI single back in the 4th. For the Blue Jays in the 3rd game of the series on Sunday. Nothing announced yet. Don't know exactly how they'll play, but it kind of feels like Anthony Kay's involved somehow. Kay, another guy the Blue Jays are high on, one of the pitchers they got back in the Marcus Stroman deal.
This is a situation where last year we may have seen a different pitcher in this situation. 3 batters come in here, gets the first 2, and then now Cash would have gone to a right-hander to face Grichuk, but that's not the case this season where you got to face these guys, and he would have made a move probably by now, but that's not the case now. He has faced 3 batters, but with righty batting against Beeks, more than likely they would have made a pitching change.
What do you expect from Vladdy this year?
Well, I think Vladdy understands he has to be a little more aggressive at the plate. I think last year he ran out of gas, played more games, had a longer season than he ever played in the past.
Shallow center, and an easy play for Kiermaier to retire the side. 7th inning stretch at the Trop, 6-3 Jays.
When Bass was a member of the Rangers, here he is proposing to her in Arizona. Now, Bass married into quite an accomplished family. His sister-in-law is country singer Jessie James Decker, and her husband is former NFL wide receiver Eric Decker. The professional athletes in the family say they love to swap stories, but more than anything, Bass tells me, I love hearing Eric's stories of playing in the Super Bowl. Now, Dan Decker doesn't love talking about it. His Broncos fell to the Seahawks in one of the worst losses in Super Bowl history, 43-8.
Still pretty cool. I'm sure they have some very interesting dinners, whether they're virtual family dinners right now or not, but a lot to talk about. Anthony Bass making his Blue Jay debut. Last inning, retired Yandy Diaz to get the last out of the 6th. And now starts Hunter Renfroe with a 94-mile-an-hour fastball over the outside corner here in the 7th. 2-3-4 in the Rays order. Renfroe, Tsutsugo, and Martinez with the Jays up by 3. Jays scoring 6 runs off Charlie Morton, one of the best, who only gave up 6 runs in a start once all of last season. You know, one difference, we talked about all the different looks in the Rays pen. The Blue Jay pen, and there's Rafael Dolis, who we spoke of earlier, and he figures to be the next guy. The Blue Jay pen unquestionably has more velocity to it, but Romano, Bass, Dolis, Giles, they're all kind of hard-throwing right-hander fastball slider guys. They're all similar.
Yeah. And they all work to the outer part of the plate. Dolis has a splitter, and he spent 4 years in Japan.
Right.
But Bass, he too spent some time in Japan. He went there in 2016 and pitched with the Nippon Ham Fighters in the Eastern League in Japan. And he played Hiroshima in a Japanese series, and he was one of the MVPs. He was the outstanding player in that series as he won 3 of those 4 games.
Another play for Shaw, and on the money to Guerrero, 1 down.
Beauty Tone is the official paint of the Toronto Blue Jays, only available at Home Hardware. Here's how.
Opening night in an unprecedented sort of baseball season for obvious reasons, but it is live regular season baseball. And so far it's been a good night for the Blue Jays, up 6-3, bottom 7. Kevin Biggio, if you're joining us late, with a big hit, a 3-run homer early in the game. There's Yoshi Tsutsugo. He homered his last time up. 2-run shot of Hyun-Jin Ryu, who went 4 2/3. Gave up 3 runs on 4 hits.
Tsutsugo hit that ball to the opposite field in left center. Ball was up and away. Yeah, he's got good power all parts of the ballpark. But he'll stay in the middle of the diamond. He doesn't have to pull the ball to hit it out. They mentioned Bass pitching in Japan. That was in 2016. He was a teammate of Chris Martin, who is now with the Atlanta Braves, and he pitched tonight, gave up a home run in that game started by Mike Soroka.
It looked like a little backdoor cutter there almost that didn't come back around the outside corner.
And it fooled Danny Jansen a little bit. He got a little more movement than Danny was anticipating.
Well, you can see even just with the fastball, he can do some different things with it.
Yeah, it runs, it cuts, and he's able to pitch to both sides of the plate. I would really, now at this 2-strike count, keep the ball inside to Tsutsugo. Run a cutter in there, throw him a slider down and in, maybe get him to chase something in the dirt down and in, but I wouldn't throw anything out over the plate.
In on his hands, popped up. Jansen makes the play.
Good pitch. Tied him up. 2 strikes. Good hitter like Tsutsugo is looking for something out of the plate, protecting the pitch, and it's a hard slider right in on his hands. Good job by Jansen. It's not an easy place to catch pop-ups, particularly for a catcher. You're moving. Lots of things are up in that ceiling of this dome. That's a tough play. Made nice play.
And a big second out here in the bottom of the 7th. We'll bring up Jose Martinez. Martinez 1 for 3, had a double his last time up. A mile high. And with no fans in the stands, you can hear Kevin Biggio calling for the ball. And Teoscar Hernandez good as well. And the Rays are retired in order.
At Fenway Park, here's J.D. Martinez with a bases loaded double into the corner in Boston, part of a 6-run fourth for the Red Sox. They have a 10-0 lead on Baltimore as we take it back to Dan Shulman and Buck Martinez.
All right, Jamie, thank you. Nice job by Anthony Bass. The Blue Jays still leading 6-3 as they go to the top of the 8th inning here in the Trop right now. Rowdy Tellez will lead it off. A mighty cut, and he fouls it back. Rowdy is 0 for 2 and also has a sac fly tonight.
Yeah, Blue Jays had back-to-back sac flies, something they didn't do very often last year, is hit a sac fly, but they put back-to-back sac flies in the 4th inning. Rowdy Tellez and then Teoscar Hernandez.
0-2. After Tellez, Hernandez, and Fisher scheduled here in the 8th inning. Does not look like anybody is up in the Rays pen, as I think everybody knows we're calling this game from the studio here in Toronto, but through a lot of collaboration between our crew and the Rays crew. This is how it'll work all season. We've got some extra monitors. We've got a bullpen cam and a high home cam to see where the defense is, and a scoreboard cam, and just trying to get as much information as we can from afar about what's going on at the ballpark. And Doug Walton, Troy Clara, and our entire crew have done an unbelievable amount of work to get this where it is tonight.
And it's a pretty good job. It really kind of feels like a regular game from our vantage point, and getting all the information and all of the shots we normally get. Of course, it's not like being at the ballpark where you can visually look down on the field and see the movement, see the players, and you might see a conversation going on in the dugout that the cameraman don't even notice.
And Tellez down on strikes.
Beeks got a lot of movement on that fastball, and you can see Tellez is upset. He did a good job hitting against lefties last year. He hit 270 against left-handers. But this is that changeup he throws with his two middle fingers. It creates an awful lot of movement. So not only is the reduced velocity effective, but the movement of that pitch also effective for Beeks.
Third strikeout that he's had already tonight. Here's Teoscar Hernandez, who's had a good night. Fly ball to center, a sac fly, and then a double. We've talked a little bit about Dante Bichette and the fact that he's in the dugout for a regular season game. You know, it's one thing, intra-squad games at Rogers Center and so forth. So we just checked with the Blue Jays media relations department, and yes, indeed, Dante is officially, and I guess he would have to be there, is officially part of the staff. He was hired as part of the staff midway through the summer camp back in Toronto, so he'll be a part of the Blue Jays coaching staff and traveling party.
Now, he has been a real benefit and a very good addition to his coaching staff. And you're right. I mean, I didn't think about it. He wasn't a coach in spring training. Got a chance to talk to him a lot, but he has to be a coach to be in a dugout. Another strikeout for Beeks. It's 4 now since he's come into the game. Inning and 2/3, 4 strikeouts.
Two down, Derek Fisher. Both Derek Fisher and Anthony Alford are on the team, and both of them, of course, are also out of options, meaning if the Blue Jays were to try to send one of them down, they would have to clear waivers in order to do it. So this is a very important opportunity for both Fisher and Alford if they want to, extend their time and really solidify themselves with the team. Billy McKinney is also on the 30-man roster right now. Billy does have an option, so he could be sent down without having to put him on waivers. And again, if guys like Ryan Borucki and Nate Pearson are coming to the big league roster fairly soon, and certainly appears that they are, a couple of guys are going to have to go the other way. Yeah, and we mentioned 30-man roster for first 2 weeks of the season, and they'll get down to 28 and eventually 26. Well, Beeks has pitched very well since coming into the game to start the 7th. Struck out Biggio and Guerrero. Now this inning he's got Tellez and Hernandez, and he's ahead of Derek Fisher. 2 strikes, 2-2 count. And Beeks will get him. Strikes out the side. And the Blue Ballpark app for free and play Pick 3. Select 3 Blue Jay players from the starting lineup and earn points based on their performance during the game. The fan with the highest point total at the end of the game has the chance to win an autographed Blue Jay item. Download MLB Ballpark app today. Visit thebluejays.com/ballpark app. Now the Blue Jays still up 6-3 as we go to the bottom of the 8th inning, and here's a Blue Jay debut, Rafael Dolis. Last 4 years in Japan, and last appeared in the major leagues in 2013 as a member of the Cubs. Has a total of 40 major league appearances to his credit, all of them at least 7 years ago. But the Blue Jays love what they have seen of his arm. Pete Walker raved about his poise, competitiveness, doing all the things that he did to save as many games as he did in Japan. And he opens up the season as the 8th inning guy. Yeah, and he's one of the guys that actually benefited from the shutdown. He has appendix removed in spring training, was going to miss the start of the regular season. Bichette can't come up with it, and Margot will reach.
Well, that should be an error, and Bo trying to round the ball had to go off his glove to start the inning. And this ground ball sharply hit, but certainly playable for Bichette, and he can't come up with it. That'll start the inning for Tampa Bay.
Still waiting on the official scoring, and it is an error on Bo Bichette. We are told Margot will reach.
Remember what we mentioned about Tampa Bay, 6th, 7th, and 8th inning. That's when they really do a number on the opponents. They've outscored the opponents over 70 runs in the 6th, 7th, and 8th because of their bullpens.
Here's Brandon Lau, his second at bat of the night. Well, we have a second. Let me clean up something I said. I made a mistake earlier when we were talking about the playoff format, and you've straightened me out, and I thank you for it. Originally, they talked about the number 1 seed could pick who they would play, and then the number 2 seed would pick from anybody who's left. But now they've gone away from that, right? It's a straight 1-8, 2-7, 3-6, 4-5 that they agreed to yesterday. But still, playoff format, big picture, I guess. 8 teams are going in each league instead of 5. And if you're the Blue Jays or the White Sox or the Angels or whomever, I mean, a lot of teams are pretty excited about it. It's a whole different situation.
Boy, it sure is. It gives so many teams an opportunity to play into September with meaningful baseball, and Blue Jays are having a look at that tag play over at first, and Joe West was waiting on their dugout, but they didn't choose to review the play. Dolis got a quick move over to first. Louis Rivera, the third base coach and infield coach, may have thought they had him picked off.
Lau asked for time just before Dolis started to the plate. Another aspect of the position that Vladimir Guerrero is going to have to learn. Holding on runners, sweep tags, and we've seen it a couple of times tonight. Vladdy is not as close to the bag as, say, Rowdy Tellez is. He's a little more inward toward the pitcher.
Well, another great block by Jansen. Ball hit just about on top of home plate, but he played it so well because it hit right in the middle of his chest protector. With Margot at first, who has good speed, and that was a ball normally you'd see a runner advance, but Jansen did a good job. This will give you an idea about Guerrero. Look where he sets up there. And it's really kind of interesting. We have seen first basemen play off the bag, whether they're lefty or righty. Keith Hernandez did it for a long time with the Cardinals and later on with the Mets. Pete Alonso did it, but he does it in a different style, and he turns his body the different angles so his glove hand is closer to the bag. So instead of angling his right shoulder toward the bag, Pete Alonso angles his left shoulder toward the bag. So the throw would take his glove right to the bag, a much shorter distance to travel. I think it's something that Vladdy is going to constantly be adjusting as he gets more time at first. This is the first game he's ever played first base.
And he's got to think, okay, when do I then stop holding the runner, and I've got to have some range over there. Got to bounce a little bit to my right and have as much range as he can on that side of the field. Ball 4. So an error and a walk. And the Rays have something going here, down by 3 in the bottom of the 8th.
The Rays have been a late inning team for so many years. They had 10 walk-off wins last year, 2 of those against the Blue Jays. And it's a tough team late in the game, and certainly the air didn't help. Bichette booted a ball on the ground to start the inning, and then Dolis walked Lau, and now Willie Adames. Adames had one of those walk-off hits for the Rays a year ago against the Blue Jays, but Blue Jays have seen this song before. Rays coming back late in the game.
Nobody up in the Blue Jay pen. Again, the way the pen looks right now, it's not going to be really a mix and match bullpen to much of an extent. It'll be Romano, Bass, Dolis, Giles in games in which the Jays are leading. Breaking ball in the dirt for ball 1.
Obviously, Dolis not pitching in the majors since 2013. Nobody's really seen much of him, so I would think that a pitcher would want to be more aggressive. See how many strikes you could throw early in the at-bats. That was an unusual delivery, a little bit of movement before he kind of went toward home plate. Tampa Bay not being able to come up with a big hit so far in this ball game.
A little more tension in the Blue Jay dugout right now, with the Rays threatening here in the bottom of the 8th inning. Now to play 2-1.
This has always been a tough place for the Blue Jays to finish off ball games. Pete Walker, pitching coach, contemplating their next move, but I want to get through this inning with Dolis, hopefully.
And again, in just a 60-game season, every game is magnified. And even before the playoff system was expanded, the Blue Jays were quietly confident, feeling that maybe other teams around baseball didn't think they were as good as they believe they are themselves. And Dolis maybe gets a bit of a break right there on the outside corner, 2-2.
And Dolis had another one of those quick deliveries where he looks back at second base, and that's what's unusual about his delivery. A deceptive move might create problems for the hitter. Kiermaier on deck, trying to get a read on Dolis.
I don't know how you feel, Buck, but with 3 against Tampa Bay and then 4 against Washington, the defending World Series champions, it's crazy to say it's a big week in the first week of the season, but it's only a 60-game season. It's a big. They got to hold their own here.
Yeah, you got to get off to a decent start. You can't really dig a deep hole for yourself, and they're going to get Scherzer and Strasburg in Washington the first 2 games, and that's never an easy assignment.
The 2-2.
I think Danny may have been crossed up right there. I think he expected a breaking ball, and he kind of shook his head at Dolis like that wasn't the right pitch. Pete Walker now on the phone. They'll get somebody throwing down in their bullpen more than likely.
So I don't think they get Giles up. So
no.
Who do they get up to try to get out of this inning?
Sam Gaviglio.
A.J. Cole made the team as a non-roster pitcher. Was with the Indians last year. They got a lefty and a Brian Moran, a submariner.
Hold on, they did not. Dolis was ready to throw a pitch, and Danny Jansen wasn't sure what he was going to throw. So wisely, he took a trip to the mound. Said, "Hey, we got to get set on these signs." He crossed me up once already, but Dolis was all set to throw the pitch, and Danny Jansen hadn't finished up giving the signs.
And it is A.J. Cole getting up and starting to throw. Made the team as a non-roster player. Again, expanded rosters, and Cole may be benefiting from that, securing a spot in the bullpen. Just soft tossing right now. Lined into left. That's a base hit. And a run will come in to score as Margot crosses the plate on the RBI single by Adames, and it's a 2-run game.
Now Margot reached on the air by Bichette, and Tampa Bay taking advantage of that. E6 walking now, an RBI base hit by Willie Adames. It's a breaking ball. It just kind of spins out over the heart of the plate. Adames had such a good season last year, coming up with big hit after big hit. Delivers a key hit right here in the 8th inning.
And with the Rays back within 2, Pete Walker has come out to the mound to talk with Dolis and buy a little bit of time for Cole.
Yeah, I think there was some miscommunication in that last at bat. Looked like Jansen got crossed up on one pitch, and then Dolis was set to throw a pitch without Jansen really being sure what pitch he was going to throw. So they used a trip to the mound, and now Walker comes out for another trip. John Schneider, you saw in the dugout, getting on the phone to check on the status of A.J. Cole, who's just now started to throw.
Kevin Kiermaier, the batter, 0 for 3 with a couple of strikeouts. The tying run now aboard at first with nobody out in the bottom of the 8th. Everything moves, but he's been pitching from behind as the movement's taking the pitches right out of the strike zone.
Yeah, you got to shoot for the bigger part of the plate when you have that kind of movement.
In the air to center. And Grichuk over toward left center makes the catch, and there is out number 1. And frustration for Kiermaier, an 0 for 4 on opening night, as Cole now throwing with a little bit more urgency in that Blue Jay bullpen.
Cole's got a great slider, and it's one of those swing and miss sliders, and we're going to see another bat off the bench is Ji-Man Choi. He's going to bat for the catcher Mike Zunino. And we mentioned the depth and the versatility of this Rays bench, and Zunino is out of the game. He finishes up 0 for 2 with a walk, and Ji-Man Choi comes up to bat in this pivotal at bat here in the 8th inning.
And this is a guy with a significant amount of power. 19 home runs last year, hit an .822 OPS. He can hurt you.
17 home runs against right-handed pitching, and 274 against righties, and going to be a key hitter for these Rays this season. Danny Jansen's been terrific all night long on those balls in the dirt. Got to keep the double play in order right here. Bo Bichette, his shortstop, is saying, man, hit it to me. Let me start this double play and get us out of the inning. I'm the one that started this jam.
There for a strike, and it's 1-1 on Choi.
Yeah, Dolis mixes up his release, and that he'll look at the second baseman and start his delivery. He'll look back at the catcher, and it's a little bit unsettling to the hitter. You don't know when he's going to start that delivery.
Jose Alvarado, the left-hander, is up in the bullpen for the Rays.
Nick Anderson, a right-hander, big hard-throwing right-hander that really did a job for them last year. He's also down there.
Boy, Buck, that's 18 pitches now thrown by Dolis, and only 7 of them have been strikes.
Yeah.
Now, the air didn't help his cause, but he's still not throwing strikes.
No, and that's really a problem coming out of the bullpen. You got to throw strikes.
Got him to chase, 2-2.
Looked like a little splitter down in the zone. He was on front, 86 miles an hour. Choi last year's a pinch hitter with just 2 for 12. There's that split grip and just enough movement, and at 86 miles an hour, Choi was way out in front, just waved at him.
Up and away with a fastball, and he's run the count full. Yadi Diaz waits on deck for the Rays, who were down 6-1 back in the 5th inning. Got 2 there on a home run by Tsutsugo. Have added another run here in the 8th. The Blue Jays trying to scratch and claw their way to the finish line and win here on opening night. (3-2). Up and away, and the bases are loaded.
Pete Walker obviously Very anxious, trying to encourage Dolis into that strike zone. Going to face Yandy Diaz, who is 0 for 3 with a walk as the leadoff man, top of the order. And this is what we talked about earlier in this game, how Tampa Bay will never, ever concede a ball game, and they keep coming at you.
Yeah, that's why it's been such a house of horrors for the Blue Jays over the years. So many painful losses that the Blue Jays have suffered there. Yandy Diaz, leadoff hitter, 0 for 3 with a walk. Bases loaded, 1 out. Popped him up.
Got away with one.
Yep. Who wants it? Biggio over the shoulder catch for out number 2.
Wow, that was a hanger, and boy, did they luck out. Diaz got big power. He got underneath it. He knows he missed his pitch. This pitch just kind of spun out over the plate. Blue Jays are lucky that Diaz pops it up. Breaking ball, look at it, backs up, stays on the inside part of the plate, and that's a hit me breaking ball, man. And they lucked out.
And you can see the dejection on the face of Diaz. Now 2 down with the bases loaded. Dolis is not out of the woods yet. A guy with a lot of power. 33 home runs a year ago for Hunter Renfroe. Right at the top end of the zone, 0-1.
Well, that's a good start. Get ahead. Anxious moment. That's good stuff.
Well, we're only 8 innings into the season. There's a lot going on right now. People are biting their nails and everybody's nervous. Baseball's back.
Remember, Dolis hasn't pitched in the big league since 2013.
Yep. You can hear the crowd noise, the pumped in crowd noise getting a little bit louder down at the Trop.
He went after it. Nope. Hunter Wennerstedt, the umpire down at first, at no swing. Looked like he committed to that breaking ball, but he was able to check his swing in time. Good call.
Yep. .25 pitches thrown by Dolis. He's behind Renfroe 2-1, and the bases are loaded here in the bottom of the 8th inning.
Dolis last year in Japan had 19 saves and 10 holds, so he's been in tough situations, but not in the big leagues for a long time.
Better slider there, 2-2. Although still a little bit too much.
Yeah, it wasn't away.
Yeah. Too much of the plate.
Yeah, watch how it stays on the inner half of the plate. It's a pitch that a right-handed hitter can get to. You want to start that on the outer half and break it away, but Renfroe was out in front of it. Got it. Oh, what a pitch. Wow. His best pitch of the inning ends it with the bases loaded.
Strike 3 called over the outside corner. Rays get 1, but the Jays still lead by 2. Rogers Blue Jays baseball partnership, and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of Rogers Blue Jays baseball partnership. Tropicana Field, St. Petersburg, Florida. Blue Jays 6, Rays 4. Opening day or opening night for the Blue Jays and Rays here in this very unusual, unprecedented 2020 season. Left-hander Jose Alvarado comes into the game for Tampa Bay. His good is really, really good, but he doesn't always have his good.
No, he's really interesting and maybe a real pivotal pitcher out of their bullpen. He's one of the 5 guys that averages over 95 miles an hour with his fastball. His average fastball is 98. He also throws a curveball and a slider. But you're right, you just don't know what you're going to get on a given night.
96 with movement is a start if he can locate it. Choi remains in the game at first. Two is taken low. 98 on that pitch. 1 ball 2 strikes. Michael Perez is now catching for Tampa Bay. Choi pinch hit for Zunino, stays in the game at first, and Perez comes on to catch.
Alvarado has got one of the best fastballs, but he's also got one of the biggest moving fastballs. He threw a pitch a couple of years ago that moved about 2 feet at 98 miles an hour. I mean, it looked like a wiffle ball going up there. He's got dramatic movement.
It looks like a computer generated Photoshop something or other, and it was a real pitch. His good's really good. A little down and in. 3-2.
These guys are really hard to catch. Not only does he throw hard, but you're not really sure where he's going to throw it. And then you add on the factor of that extra movement. It's really a challenge for a catcher. You set up on one side of the plate, he could throw it all the way across the other side of the plate with wicked movement.
Throwing the slider, fouled off by Jansen. With Ken Giles now warming up in the bullpen for the Blue Jays in anticipation of a save situation at the bottom of the 9th. Well, he was good last year. Numbers were terrific. Had some issues here and there with the elbow, consecutive days, that sort of thing. But when he was out there healthy, he was great. There's Alvarado. Never quite know what you're going to get as Jansen takes a leadoff walk.
Well, and that's a real problem for managers when you're down in the bottom of the order and you start an inning walking a number 9 guy. That's always going to cause problems. That happened to the Blue Jays in the 6th inning. Romano walked Mike Zunino, the catcher, with 2 outs with a comfortable lead. You just got to make sure where you are in the lineup and be really aggressive.
Top of the order, Bo Bichette, 1 for 4, singled and scored back in the 5th. Blue Jays would love a little insurance, it goes without saying, here in the 9th inning. Give Ken Giles a little bit more margin for error in the bottom half. That's about as straight a pitch as Alvarado can throw.
Yeah, he throws one back to the backstop to walk Jansen, and he throws one right down the middle to start Bichette off.
I don't know if Perez blocked that so much as it just kind of ran into him. Yeah, he's a little bit shaken up. Might have come up and hit him in the collarbone.
Yeah, I got up under his chest protector, and watch where this ball bounces. And he turned his head sideways, and that's always a bad thing for a catcher because you're most protected to keep your face mask straight away. But you can see when he turned his head sideways, that opened up that area underneath his face mask, and he caught it in the throat. Protection now is unbelievable with all this great equipment. You can see he's got pads on both shoulders. He's got the extension on the hockey style mask. But boy, when you turn your head, you make yourself vulnerable to taking one under the chin. It's the aspect I mentioned about catching Alvarado. Yeah. You never really know where it's going.
We talked about catching a guy like Hyun-Jin Ryu, and what a pleasure that must be. This is a whole different situation.
A whole different situation. You call a pitch, you don't know where it's going.
Yeah. Jammed him, fouled off, 1-2. You know, when the Blue Jays started going through the situation with where would they play and would they be able to stay in Canada, would they quarantine, this, that, the stories that filtered out of the clubhouse about who the leaders on the team were, I heard 3 names more than any other. Matt Shoemaker, who is their player rep, veteran guy. Joe Panik, who is new to the team. And then the third name you heard was that of Bo Bichette.
Yeah.
That as young as he is, and he's not the loudest guy in the world, but that he's already starting to take on a bit of a leadership role in that clubhouse.
That's terrific for a 22-year-old that's played just 47 games now in the majors.
Chases a nasty slider down and in. The play of the game is brought to you by TD, proud fan and official bank of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Well, the big hit so far for the Blue Jays was back in the 5th inning with 2 aboard. Cavan Biggio gets a fastball out over the plate and drills it for his first home run of the season. His second career home run here at Tropicana Field. And at that point, that gave the Blue Jays a 6-1 lead. Biggio had a terrific season a year ago. And he gets off to a great start. 16 home runs last year. He's got 1 in the books already.
So now here you got a lefty who throws 97 with erratic command, and you're a left-handed batter. How do you tell that front hip to stay in there and trust that he's not going to stick one in your ribs?
Yeah, you got to really hang in there, and he does that. He hit .237 against lefties with 3 home runs last year. .97 in a good spot. Biggio getting his first taste of Jose Alvarado. I don't think he wants a full bite.
Jansen aboard after a leadoff walk. Bichette then struck out. 6-4 Blue Jays, top of the 9th. And the 0-2 lays off that breaking ball in the dirt.
There's a lot of swing and miss in this Tampa Rays bullpen. You mentioned the different looks you get out of the pen, the velocity, 5 guys throwing over 95 miles an hour. And they'll rack up the strikeouts.
1-2. Look out. And it was a slider, so Biggio was able to get out of the way a little bit more easily. But if that one had been going the other way, he'd have had a problem.
Well, that's tough with a hard throwing left-hander. You're trying to hang in there and say, you know, I got to hang in there and don't give up on the breaking ball. And then he has a hanger come up and in around the chin.
And just low, a full count.
Boy, it's remarkable how good an eye he has. You see Anthony Alford, who's made the opening day roster, one of 6 outfielders the Blue Jays have. Talking with Randall Grichuk. Blue Jays would love to put a W on the board here opening night.
Jansen at first, 1 down, and a full count on Biggio with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. waiting on deck. And he takes strike 3, and he knew it. 2 down. Here comes Vladdy. If you weren't watching the second game from Boston on Wednesday, get a load of that. Right out of the ballpark.
Big swing on a breaking ball. It's it all the way out of the ballpark at Fenway Park, and that's a pretty good way to wrap up your summer camp, if you will. They mentioned that Guerrero a year ago hit 15 home runs, but he did not homer after August 22nd last season. Blue Jays would love to get another run or 2 here in this 9th inning.
1 for 4, a base hit and a run scored for Guerrero tonight. And a grounder to short. They'll force Jansen and retire the side. So we're going to the bottom of the ninth. Ken Giles will get a chance to save a ball game here on opening night. Opening night for the Blue Jays, and they take a 2-run lead to the bottom of the ninth inning. And you know what that means. It is time for Ken Giles to come in and try to lock it up. Had 23 saves and an ERA of 1.87 a year ago.
Now he had a stretch of 17 straight saves. Franchise record. He was first among American League relievers last year in strikeout rate. Struck out 39.9% of the batters he faced. He led the Major League in save percentage at 95.8, and over the last 2 years he has been terrific.
Anthony Alford is into the game. He'll take over defensively for Derek Fisher in left field. Checking his charts. 6-4 Blue Jays trying to get a win at the Trop here on opening night. 3-4-5 hitters for the Rays are due up here in the bottom of the ninth inning.
Alford, of course, great speed in the outfield. Giles fastball slider. Yoshi Tsutsugo homered in the 5th inning. First big league hit.
Hit hard, but a foul down the right field line. Hyun-Jin Ryu started for the Blue Jays tonight. Gave up 3 runs on 4 hits through 4 2/3. Jordan Romano worked an inning, walked a couple. Anthony Bass was very good in his Blue Jay debut. 4 up and 4 down, the last out of the 6th, and then 1, 2, 3 in the 7th. Rafael Dolis had some adventures in the 8th. An error behind him didn't help, but he walked a couple. A run scored, and now Giles here in the 9th.
Giles had to go back door with that breaking ball and missed. We mentioned Tsutsugo is good out over the plate. He's the kind of guy I think Giles can get the ball inside on. Jose Martinez, the right-handed hitter, is on deck.
Don't go anywhere after the conclusion of this game. There's more baseball coming your way. It'll be the Giants and Dodgers in the second game of their series. The Dodgers winning last night. Boy, every year you look at the Dodgers and they look even better than they did the year before in some ways. And they've been awfully good, just trying to get over that final hurdle and win the World Series for the first time since 1988.
Yeah, Ross Stripling will start for LA tonight.
Left center field and playable. And Alford in front of Grichuk to make the catch, 1 down.
And it looked like Grichuk was going to make a play. Anthony just into the ball game, but you can see they're communicating. Got to make sure you have your wires straightened out. And Alford checking out his defensive sheet, making sure he's set up in the right position. But Grichuk, the center fielder, has priority on that ball, and he could have made that catch easily.
And one thing that nobody should say this year is I couldn't hear him, right? Because there's a little bit of pumped in crowd noise, but it's not that much. Everybody should be able to hear everybody calling for the ball if they're doing their job properly. Here's Jose Martinez, 1 for 4.
Very tentative swing from Martinez. I'm really sure what he was going to get. He had 329 a year ago against lefties, just 254 against right-handers.
Well, one guy we haven't mentioned is Austin Meadows. Such a good player for the Rays. 33 home runs a year ago. He was a Blue Jay killer last year. And he is not ready to go. He has tested positive for the coronavirus. Rays were hit pretty hard by it, some key players. And it feels like Meadows is getting closer. He's back with the team, but he's not back on the roster yet.
Is 4-11 with 8 homers and 17 RBIs good numbers?
That's pretty good. It's not quite Gleyber Torres against the Orioles good, but it's pretty good.
And Charlie Montoya referred to him as Babe Ruth during summer camp, but he wore out the Blue Jays last year.
So the Rays a little bit shorthanded without one of their best players. 0-2. Andy Chase, good pitch, slider down and away, 2 down.
Boy, Giles, boy, when he is throwing strikes, it's very difficult for any hitter, but right-handers, they don't stand much of a chance against him. He's got that powerful slider, a hard slider, starts in the strike zone, breaks down and away. 2 quick outs here for Giles in the 9th.
So the Blue Jays an out away from an opening night victory. It'll be Manuel Margot. 0 for 3, has reached on an error, has walked. Known much more for his defense than his offense in his time in the big leagues, which came with San Diego before the trade this past offseason.
This is the 5th time the Blue Jays have played the Rays in the Rays home opener. Coming into this game, they had split the previous 4 games. No chance.
Yeah, may as well keep throwing it.
No, I tell you what, you can't pick up the spin on that slider because it's so hard and the spin is so tight. A lot of pitchers will throw a slider and you can pick up the spin and see the dot on that slider. Not the case with Giles because he throws it so hard and he's got such great spin. It looks like a fastball coming out of his hand. Oop, tried to throw that one a little too hard.
Yeah, almost quick pitched him a little bit. Came at him a little bit quickly there. Ryan Yarbrough and Matt Shoemaker tomorrow. Blue Jay Central, 2:30 Eastern. First pitch at 3:10 Eastern.
Giles 23 of 24 in save opportunities a year ago. Looking for number 1 tonight.
Left that one over the inside part of the plate.
Nevin Ashley with a good block down in the pen. Tampa Bay has stranded 10 base runners tonight. Brandon Lau came into the game as a pinch hitter in the 5th inning. He is struck out and walked. He's on deck.
Blue Jays don't want to see him as the tying run.
Not at all.
Just inside, and it's a full count. I got to make him earn it here.
Yeah, absolutely. He wants this ball away. It stays inside. Went around the inside corner. Margot's been on base 3 of the 4 times he's come to the plate.
The 3-2.
Yeah, you don't want to throw him a slider here and take a chance of walking him and bringing the tying run to the plate. Blue Jays have walked 7 tonight.
Another 3-2 pitch. Way high for ball 4, and that will bring the tying run to the plate. Well, he had him 0-2. Had him totally beat with a couple of sliders and then couldn't finish him off.
Charlie Montoya in the dugout's got to be thinking, man, come on, let's go. They won 6 games against Tampa Bay all season last year, and they got a win right here in their grasp with 2 outs in the 9th.
Stress levels a little bit ratcheted up from the intra-squad games, huh? It's gotten real in a hurry here on opening night. Dangerous hitter Brandon Lau. Outside corner for a strike.
And right back with a slider and just backed off it a little bit to get ahead of Brandon Lau. Lau's 1 for 3 against Giles going up head to head.
The 0-1 on the way. Another slider, swing and a miss, 0-2. And again, the Blue Jays are a strike away. You bounce one here?
I might throw it upstairs. Just see if you can't get him to chase. Just trying to use that fastball. They're going to throw him another slider. Keep it out of the strike zone. Backed off that one as well. The sliders he threw to Margot to start that last at bat were 97 miles an hour. He's thrown 84, 85. Margot went to second base on that pitch. He should be credited with a stolen base.
1 ball, 2 strikes, 2 down here in the bottom of the 9th. These last few outs not coming easily, and now Margot just keeps trucking right around the bases. Blue Jays are in the shift, so he can walk over to third, but his run doesn't matter. One, 2.
Got him. Another good slider.
Ken Giles finally puts him away, strikes out of Brandon Lau. And the Blue Jays get a little dicey there at the end, Buck, but they pick up a win at the Trop on opening night.
Well, and the difference in the ball game was the 5th inning when Kevin Biggio hit that 3-run home run. Giles made it interesting. The Rays got the tying run to the plate. But Tampa Bay was 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position. The Blue Jays bullpen gave him a few opportunities late, but Ken Giles picks up his first save of the season, and the Blue Jays are in the win column.
Baseball is back. We will see you again tomorrow afternoon, but right now let's send you back to Jamie and Joe for Blue Jays Central.